let's keep this moving because, dude, I said dude. Like, who am I saying dude to? Like, dude to the Counter-Strike world. This has been these last it's been a week. It's basically everything's happened in a week. It has been popping off, and today it feels like it's going even more wild. PGL, they just announced that they're going to be hosting the next major, the first major in 2 years. The last one was the Berlin major by Starladder back in 2019. Jesus Christ, where is time going? Hello and welcome to another episode of HLTV Confirmed. We're still in season 5. This is episode 22, and right now I think probably the next player from the top 20 would have just been released on the website. But let's get this one underway because we have a shitload to talk about here tonight. It's HLTV Confirmed, powered by Extra Fly. If you want to be extra fly, get yourself some fucking extra fly. No, Extra Fly. I messed it up. Well, that's a great start to 2021. Anyway, it's a new year. And on tonight's show, we're going to be talking about the next major just got announced. We're going to be having a look at the top 20 so far, rostermania that's going on, the Blast Global Finals, 2021 calendar, and if we have time, some of these viewer questions. So let's get this one underway. Let's introduce, well, the regulars. We don't have a guest tonight. Lucas, how many days off has Martin given you between, the last show and now?
None. I've been working nonstop almost. Oh, I got to go home for Christmas and New Year's, but
okay. Is Martin like the opposite of Santa? He doesn't work on Christmas Day.
No. Martin is the best boss ever.
Okay. Well, that's blink twice if you need help. But
that sounds very North Korea, but okay, let's go.
Yeah, all right. So let's get stuck in. Striker, my question for you, coming off of the holidays or the winter break, what was the best present you got for Christmas, if you got any presents?
I got a Powerball.
What? Powerball. Oh, that's the thing you do a lot of this on? You're doing a lot of this on it? Like, you're doing a lot of these ones?
This thing.
Yeah, show us. Give everybody at home a demonstration of that, mate.
Give it a good go.
Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. The boys have one of these in the house. Machine and Henry walking around with this. Hey, where the camera can see it, mate. Here we go. That's a new technique. I haven't tried that one before.
That's a swirly.
Might have to give that one a crack. Prof, what about you? Did you get anything good for Christmas?
Yeah, I got some socks. So
okay.
That's
nice.
I'm at that age. That's the perfect present.
Nice.
Just give me socks, man, so I don't have to go and buy them.
I got some socks too.
I'm wearing what Machine and Henry got me a present for Christmas. Their house shoes, because I walk around on the tiles in the cold in bare feet. So yeah, okay, we're all caught up. We've all spoken about Christmas. New Year's happened. I'm sure nobody did.
Can you be any more Australian, by the way?
Probably. My accent's going, mate. It's almost gone. I sound like
it's not.
For you guys, I sound way too talked. Like, I spoke to my dad on the phone the other day. I was like, oh my God, is that what I used to sound like? Maybe I still sound like that. But either way, a little bit more housekeeping before we get stuck into the topics. Anchor.fm/HLTV for the audio only options. A lot of people asking questions about that. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can find it over at anchor.fm/HLTV. Twitch.tv/HLTV.org. That's where you are now. On YouTube, it's www.hltv.org. Like, that's the username. You can find that there, and on Twitter at HLTV Confirmed. So that's all the social stuff done. And we may as well get into this, boys, because there is a shitload to talk about. So let's kick off the recent news, Lucas. Okay, so we may as well start at the top, and that is with the top 20, right? Now, ROPS was just announced at number 7. We've only got 6 more players to go, and this is quickly coming to a head. It should be there just as Blast is kicking off. So that'll be interesting to finish off. But let's throw this one over to you, Striker, because I know that you've worked a lot on this, and you've been basically busy throughout the holidays on this. People at home have been asking a lot of questions, and one of the main ones that we've seen is about how many North American players showed up in the early stages of the top 20. You want to give some not justification, because you don't need to justify yourself on these things, but maybe so people can understand it a little bit better?
I mean, I feel like it's even maybe there weren't even enough in some people's eyes just because of they maybe didn't see how the competition looked over there, and they expected some players to be a little bit higher. Like people were complaining about Case Dorado and some of these FURIA players to be a little bit too low. But I mean, it just comes down to them having to play in North America for most of the year. They didn't even play in Katowice, and early in the year in Blast. I see a feedback. I hear feedback from you, Chad. By the way, I hear myself back.
From me.
Yeah. I think it's because I don't know.
Just turn down your
Hold up a second,
volume,
guys.
probably.
Let me work on this. You guys keep talking. Let me just turn this down. Maybe it'd be better now. We'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, it just comes down to the competition over in North America, and that's why the North American players were relatively low. A lot of people were surprised with Elige being that high, but I feel like he was pretty convincingly the best North American player the last year. So I feel like it wasn't a big surprise to me. So I was kind of surprised to see people bash on that quite a lot. I don't know if there's anything else that I can really say about it. You can just go through.
I guess like Chad's boy JKS is kind of a surprise. Like JKS and Crims maybe are the guys that most people didn't really think would get in. I feel like, but then you really have to go and look at like some of these stats that you can't even see on the webpage, or you can, but people don't really look at them, which are like the play against like top 5, top 10 teams, and then like playoff records and like records and some of these like biggest events. Because in the past we had like the big event filter, and that kind of helped, and now with everything being online, it's really hard to like filter to useful stats on the website. So yeah, I don't know. Those were maybe the most confusing ones, I guess.
I guess a lot of people are also talking about somebody like Xantares not being there, which is pretty obvious that he's not going to be there now, by the way, with Surson being where he is, I think 10th, right? I guess with him, it's just like people, I'm not going to say that he's that padded, but Big obviously played in a lot of tournaments that were a lot lower down on the scale of the ranking or the competition, and that wasn't even considered for the ranking because it's just not big enough events, right, to make it onto that. So I guess if you look at the events where they played, the biggest ones, he did fine. He was probably on the edge of top 20. I think Peter's going to release the list of people who just barely didn't make it. Did he release it already?
Yeah.
Can we look at it? Because I haven't seen it
So
actually, just so I can say.
21 and then Mantu 22.
Oh, okay.
And then after that was a bunch of players, including Xantares, KD, and
Config was also a big name that people were saying a lot for top 20.
Sent it to you, Lucas, if you want to bring this up for people to have a look at on the stream here. Now, I just want to kind of make this... people are always going to have biases towards things. It's natural, right? Like people are going to have only watched a certain amount of events, or they're going to have more favored players, or maybe somebody who, they thought had a good time from the games that they watched. And there's always going to be like a bias there. And the thing is, with these rankings, you guys are the ones setting the goalpost for how you determine what you think makes up these categories, right? And I think that's the hardest year you may have ever had to do it was 2020 because of the regional restrictions, because of like the lack of lands, right? That's normally where we put all the pedigree and stuff. So this year, right, it's going to be very difficult for people to agree on a lot of these things. I don't think it's anywhere near as clear cut as what it could have been in the past. But the thing is, I know that, and I was actually playing some pugs the other day with a couple of pros, and I'm not trying to shout out. This is a reference point for you guys. And some of them were saying, oh, maybe this year they should have done North America and Europe separately, right? But then what do you do with the crossover events, right? Do you just grade them against their players back in their own country and say, well, they played against good Europeans, so we factor it? It all becomes very messy, right? So I think that is the best way to describe 2020 was just a fucking mess. You know what I mean? So people favorite players might not be in here. You know, players who you think might be higher or deserve to be higher or whatever, they might miss out. But I
mean, just one thing that I'm going to say
Yeah.
on top of that is just that people like often just go by the rating list and see somebody being really high, but not making the end. But if you go through like some of these events, they didn't really get a lot of awards. They made up a lot of these numbers in like group stages before they got to like big stages. Maybe they didn't really show up in playoffs. These things are things that really matter and make a big difference in the end in the ranking, because we're looking for like big players, like the best players
Sure.
that showed up when it mattered at the best events and stuff like that. So these things are really important, and you can't just look into like basic lists of how people did over the year with the rating.
Yeah. Now, look, and I'm going to be completely honest. So I read it at home. Like, this is something that I love seeing getting put out and reading the articles and hearing from the players and all that stuff. Like, I think from that side of things, it's really good. But in terms of like as the year goes, I don't sit down like you guys do and look at all the stats and the numbers and stuff. I obviously use the biases of like the events that I was obviously casting, which games I was working in certain circumstances. Maybe I missed like a blast thing while I was traveling or whatever, right? But if we just want to spitball, I think like people are going to be able to work out who the final 6 are, right? Like it has to be the big 3. We all know Device, ZywOo, Simple, right? Those are the right. I would assume in the top 3. Alesia's got to be in here somewhere. So there's 4. We need 2 more. Blame F and Nico, right? Those.
Alesia's already out. It's an 8.
Fuck, I missed that one. Electronics. That's yes. Okay. So with that in mind, with those final bits and bobs, we all know who it's going to be. It's just about the order of, right? So people can speculate that. They can have some fun with that, and we'll see where we go. But do we want to? Was there anything so far from the articles that stood out to you boys? Like any of the replies, any of the breakout players to look for this year? Was there anything that you thought was a surprise or was interesting?
A lot of people are talking about Flames, which is pretty interesting.
True.
I think he was picked by Rob today as well as the bold prediction. So that's like the 3rd time he was picked, which is interesting. All of the FURIA players literally cheated, just picked a player that's going to join them in like 5 days. That's kind of lame.
I mean, Ellie's did as well, so.
I know, but it's like, come on.
It's legit. Okay. It's a legit pick, at least. I'm going to give them that. We, by the way, just for people who didn't notice, really, we were a little bit more strict with the bold predictions this year, so that there aren't like bullshit, predictions like, I don't know who I should say. Like
last year, we had that funny situation where Ethan was number 20, and his bold prediction was Brolan, and literally the next day, Brolan was announced as number 19.
Yeah,
exactly. Literally, Brolan was better than him in that year. He was like, "Yeah, I'll be bold. This guy's gonna be good soon." So
we were a little bit more strict, having some certain set of rules.
Sure.
For what kind of a player they're allowed to pick, and so it's produced a lot more interesting answers than some of the last years.
Okay, well, we'll see if any of those come to fruition, and we'll obviously keep following this and probably bringing up the final 6 on the next week's show whenever we do throw that in. Let's keep this moving because, dude, I said dude. Like, who am I saying dude to? Like, fucking dude to the Counter-Strike world. This has been these last it's been a week. It's basically everything's happened in a week. Shit has been popping off, and today it feels like it's going even more wild. PGL, they just announced that they're going to be hosting the next major, the first major in 2 years. The last one was the Berlin major by Starladder back in 2019. Jesus Christ, where is time going? And PGL, if you guys don't know the history on them, they ran the Krakow major back in 2017. Now, some of you listening, if you're a hardcore fan, you probably remember that event, and you may be like, oh yeah, but this had this problem, this had this problem. Well, let's quickly recap some of that stuff because I was there, and I think there's a few misconceptions. There was the whole PC issue where the players were complaining about the PCs. I think that was to do with like the build of Counter-Strike at the time, if I remember rightly. So it wasn't PGL
about it, yeah.
Yeah, so PGL got flack for that when it wasn't their fault. Then we had the whole big fucking drama with those scumbags abusing the jump thing, right? In like, it's not just a boost like what Olaf and shit did. They were exploiting something and laughing while doing it. So that kind of marred that one in a kind of like negative stance. And there were
lots to know where you stand on that subject, by the way.
Oh, mate, fucking hell. Like, what's going on? Anyway, we're not getting started on that. Basically, what I want to try and frame for everybody is I want you guys to think about the good stuff you've seen PGL do. Like, they were one of the first to start integrating these customized HUDs and stuff. And they were also working on, I thought that their 360 stage for that event was really quite cool. I think they obviously have some cool elements. We haven't seen a lot from them on the European scale in some time. They've been doing a lot of their events either in conjunction with Perfect Boulder and Asia and stuff. So it's good to see them getting back. I know that the streaming quality is one of the things that they announced, right? 4K 60 FPS or something. To me, I'm not a tech guy. I don't know if that's cool, but I think having it in Stockholm and having it definitely towards the tail end, right? It's it's October to November is the range. I'm praying to Lord bloody Gabe that one of two things happens, right? Like we all know that COVID might still be around fucking us until October, but because we know now, because they've announced it now, and we know that things are going to kind of hopefully, like I'm trying to live in a positive world here, guys. So hopefully get better week after week, month after month. As we move closer to that event, either they're going to have really good restrictions in place or understand how long they need to get these players and get them into the event, or we're going to be in a place where we can travel again, right? So those things are concerns that I'm sure PGO and Valve will be monitoring on the way. But like, what were your initial thoughts when you saw this pop off, Prof?
I just want to add about like the whole COVID thing. I did see on Twitter Trans, formerly of Twitch, now of, can't remember the name of the company that he's in, but he lives in Sweden. It says that the plan is like their plan is to have everyone essentially vaccinated by that date.
Okay.
So that might be a reason why Sweden was picked, right? So
sure.
Is he lagging just for me, or
that,
no? Well, it was overall, but I think he's better now.
But yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. Other than that, I think you can feel like some good vibes in the community just based on this announcement.
Yeah.
So I think that was needed.
What were you thinking, Striker, when you saw it? Anything pop into your mind initially?
I mean, 4K broadcast, that's definitely a big up. Because I feel like they've done it already in some the perfect, what was it, PEL, whatever it was called.
Was it the Asian
Chinese
League?
Yeah, exactly. One of the Asian leagues. I'm pretty sure they already did a 4K broadcast there, because I seem to remember watching it even. And so to see it on a much bigger scale, obviously, would be really nice, just because it's like the next step in broadcast, right? We've had full HD for fucking ever, and we've had like bigger resolutions for quite a long time now. So I feel like that's a pretty natural next step. We all know that. I mean, we've heard that it's expensive and stuff like that. I understand that. So I'm just glad that it's coming. That's definitely a highlight for me. Yeah. Apart from the fact that we're actually getting back to majors,
Well, hopefully, right? Like if we can get any lands in this year, I'm sure that's going to be, people are going to be ecstatic about that. Obviously, with a crowd is where we want to be. So if everybody just wants the details, there's 24 teams, $2 million is the prize pool. Those teams are going to still be identified through a series of regional major ranking events. So
I'm still curious about whether that means that it's going to be reset for this year, because it's almost sounds like that's what they mean.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure that was intended to sound like that.
This is what it says verbatim on the blog post, just for those of you. Actually, I'll link it to you, Lucas, so you can show the viewer at home as well. It's just there for you. But it says in the bottom section under the image, 24 teams will battle out for their share of a $2 million prize pool. Those teams will be identified through a series of regional major ranking events throughout the year, initially taking place online and culminating in at least one offline RMR per region prior to the major. We'll provide more details about 2021 RMR events soon. So that means that there has to be LAN events before the major can happen. So that's going to put us on we're already in the middle of January now, right? This year is going to go so quick, guys. We're going to be in November before you fucking know it. So this is something that maybe we have to have like a COVID, like 5 minutes at the start of every show. All right, guys, what's the world looking like? Do we think this is likely or not? Because it's so hard to tell, and I don't want to get bogged down in that shit, because you've all probably fed up of fucking hearing it in the news. So this is exciting stuff. I think we've capped that off pretty well. Hopefully we can get this event underway, and we can all enjoy Counter-Strike the way Stockholm's going to be fantastic. One of the original homes for Counter-Strike Sweden, and I saw people tweeting saying TI is meant to be in Stockholm as well. Is that true?
It's meant to be the same exact venue. It was supposed to be there at the end of last year, but obviously got postponed because of all this shit.
Sure.
And I think somebody said that it's supposed to be there, like whenever TI comes.
Yeah. So that's quite an interesting thing as well that we bring up there, because when we look at the TI and the CSGO major, they've never really like had anything to do with each other. Yeah. But one of the things as well that people might not be too familiar with is that I think PGL for a very long time, and I probably still do, had something to do with TI, whether it was production. So if you're Valve, and like as far as I'm aware, they're very good friends with the people over there at PGL. It makes a lot of sense if they're going to try and do the same location, if they're going to try and do the similar protocols, keep people in that environment. So it could be good, right? It definitely could be good.
Definitely. I mean, never mind. Go ahead.
I've just quickly before we maybe move away from this, I've had some people tweeting at me and some comments I'm reading of people saying that they don't have ad blocker on, but are getting that thing at the start when they are tuning into the stream. If you're doing embedded streams, I know that starts to be a thing as well, guys. So just for those of you who are watching live, if you're doing an embedded stream, you might get those problems at the start. All right, before we move away from this, anyone else have anything they want to say about the major?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Just hope it happens.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so this next one is to do with ESEA being revamped. So, Prof, we'll test you. We'll see how good your internet is. Do you have the, let's say, do you have the dot points for everybody at home of what this means and why it's good? Because it seems like it was received pretty in a positive light, right?
Yeah, I mean, I actually did talk to one of the people behind the change from ESL/ESEA. I mean, from ESL obviously now, because it's all one big product. The whole gist of it is not cutting, but changing the number of seasons. So it's 4 seasons instead of 3, and at the same time getting rid of those like non-promotion seasons that existed in the past few years, which were kind of weird, and people had to play them just to stay in, but it didn't really mean anything, so it was kind of useless. So those are out. You have 4 seasons per year, 2 in the first half, 2 in the second half, and all of them, if you win the season, you get the Pro League spot for the second. Like if that's in the first part of the year, you get a Pro League spot in the second part of the year, and vice versa, right?
Okay.
So that's the thing. And what they are trying to do is to make it like more structured. So, you have like official match days, which are going to be like Tuesday, Wednesday or something like that. And then it's going to be promoted with ESL on ESL's Twitch stream and stuff like that. And maybe then the playoffs should be maybe broadcasted from like a real studio, and maybe bring in SPUNJ and he does some stuff. And that's kind of the idea. They want to make it more structured. The schedule should be like less maps, not less maps, less matches, because it's split into groups. It's not like the classic round robin with all the teams, but it's going to be like 2 groups of 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on the region teams, and then playoffs after that. So that's kind of, and it's going to be best of 3 in the groups now as well, not best of 1.
And I've noticed, because I was trying to sign me, Yanko, Henry, and stuff up for ESEA Open the other day, and I'm clicking around the ESEA website looking for wherever I'm trying to navigate, and I was reading about these cash cups. So from what I understood with the cash cups was they're trying to help the grassroots of North America by shifting the Rank S money to cash cups, if I was reading it correctly.
Yeah.
And the North American one's going to be 15,000. So that's for like a couple days worth of games. I think it's like 1 or 2 days. And if you win that, you can, we're talking split between 5 guys. I think first place was $9,000. So that's not a bad sum of money for these, guys who want to work their way up the ranks. It's actually a pretty good place to start. So there's some good initiatives. Striker, is there anything with this that we missed that you think should be mentioned?
Not particularly. I feel like we've covered it all.
Okay. Well, Jesus, Joseph, and Bloody Mary, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to get into some absolute monstrous conversation about these rosters. Lucas, do we need to throw to something here? I know you told me. Yeah, we do. Okay, guys, we're going to quickly go to a break, and we'll be back in 30 seconds or some shit. So don't go anywhere. All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that. And we are now back to get all this roster talk underway. So if you guys haven't been paying attention to the Counter-Strike news since the year ended and all these roster changes, you're about to bloody hear a lot of stuff, because I don't think a day has gone by where there hasn't been a rumor, where there hasn't been an announcement, where there hasn't been some form of a murmuring about a movement in and we're talking about a lot of teams here within the top 20. There is a lot of moving and shaking going on right now. So let's kick her off with one of the big ones. It's Liquid adding Fallen, and it's FURIA adding Junior. So just for those people who don't know what gaps they were filling, obviously Fallen was replacing Twists, who announced after the global challenge that he wasn't part of the team anymore. And FURIA had seemingly had a mutual parting of the ways with Henny and allowed him to follow his dreams to play with his brother.
Bad call.
Yeah, Jesus, Joseph. We're going to use our lovely yay or nay buttons, guys. So
let's go.
What we want to do, if you guys we haven't done this in a while. So basically these buttons, we're gonna click them. They're gonna pop up. You're gonna see who thinks what. I have to frame a good question here. I'm kind of stalling.
Do we also get the chat yeah or nay, or is that like a separate thing?
I think that was like he has to set that up. We won't put that on Luke. He's got to fucking click a million things to make that one work. We'll just do us. Okay, so let's break this down into the roster moves first, and then we'll talk about which move was better. Okay, let's start with this one. Liquid's addition of Fallen, good or bad? Yay or nay? Oh dear.
I'm going for an A.
Okay, Striker went for he went. All right, Striker, you got the floor. What? Give us your reason for yay in it.
I was mega on the fence. I was mega on the fence last time, and I'm still there. It's just like in general, is this gonna make Liquid better, or is it gonna make them worse? It's not. I don't think it's gonna make them significantly worse. I think they didn't end. I mean, obviously, apart from the global challenge, they didn't end the year particularly well. 2020 didn't go particularly well for them. I feel like this move is not gonna make them any significantly worse. I think they're just going to be okay with it. Is it going to make them like a world beating team at that's obviously up to time, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I just want the A just because I don't think it's actually going to make them worse. I think they're going to be okay.
I don't think.
Prof, if you would like to now present your side of the argument.
But how is it like his argument doesn't even make sense? Like he's yaying it because they're not going to be worse. Bro, yeah. This is not like this is not.
The thing is, I don't see it just like going to shit,
fucking
right?
Liquid. This is Liquid making a roster move. They're removing Twists, like amazing player, top 20 player.
Okay, he wasn't playing fantastic towards the end.
Last year.
He was pretty rough towards the end of the year.
But like potential. What is Fallen last year? He wasn't much better than that. So, I don't get. I think even using what you explained, it's an A for me.
Right. I think it's just in terms of roles, it's just going to be a much better fit than before, and that's the biggest part probably. So it's just about whether Fallen is actually going to be able to put in the right amount of time and stuff like that, which is just a question mark, right?
Yeah, and this is in my opinion, just hit the bloody nail on the head. It's the amount of time, and I don't mean time of is he going to play the hours, because he's going to be with the team and he's going to have to play the hours. My question is his focus going to be on the team and the game? And I think that as somebody who was previously a competitor, it is, you can lose your competitive drive, right? You definitely can. You need to somehow reignite that fire to get it back. And I think that for Fallen, the period of limbo that he had, where they went from this growth from just a grassroots team who needed the help of Flusha, and I'm pretty sure Gomez and us as Vox Eminor gave some money as well back in the day to get those Brazilians to the early majors, to then becoming one of the absolute best teams to ever do it, being, the godfather of Brazilian CS and all this stuff. And then throughout that meteoric rise to popularity, building his business, having all of that stuff happening. It's very easy to get distracted, right? It's very easy to have your attention drawn elsewhere. And my question is Fallen joining this team going to have his focus back? Because he needs to make sure that if he's going to be he's an aging player now. He has to contribute in modern day CS, right? It can't be, you can't play the same Counter-Strike they were doing for the last couple of years because it didn't work. We all know how flat the MIBR project was. We know that all the different players they tried having kNgV in game lead, tried Fallen not AWPing. What I'm hoping is that Fallen refines the fire and the passion to be the same guy we all remember from when they were the best. And that is the only way that this could be spun as a positive for Liquid if he does. But the proof in the pudding that we have right now is that's not the case. He hasn't been playing good Counter-Strike. His teams have been playing off meta CS that doesn't work. Double AWPs on Inferno, just getting constantly beaten, and like all of the signs point to this right now could be the implosion of Liquid, because the parts are just going to slowly start disintegrating, right? If people aren't happy there. And I think that Chris going, we don't know the full story behind that. We never will know the full story behind that, but that's obviously a decision that was made. They're replacing him with an AWPer. Well, they had Stewie and Naf kind of doing the AWPing. That was terrible. They had Stewie doing the in-game leading. That was okay. But they need to get, with this move, enough out of Fallen and more out of Stu, right? Grim impressed me, all things considered. Elige always impressed me, and Naf's awesome as well. It's those two parts, Stewie and Fallen, who are the ones who have the dynamic from when Stewie was on MIBR with Tarek and co, that didn't work very well then, right? I really want to see this team make sure that it's not just Fallen coming in and calling the way that he wants to call. I want to make sure that it's a brain trust of the big brains, of players like Elige, you know, who definitely understand the current meta and how to play around and be a fantastic player and having influence on their approach to the game. Otherwise, they need to prove it, because there's so much to learn from this one here. From what I said, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in, like, how I see this team potentially working. Like, the best case scenario is kind of similar to Heroic with kNgV. Like, when you look at kNgV across the year, like, his rating is like 106, 108 or something like that. But then you see him against the best teams in the finals, etc. That's where he actually performed the best. And maybe that is what Fallen can bring to Liquid as well. Like, I don't expect them to be like a superstar AWPer anymore and to like post 120 ratings across the year, right?
It's true.
But he can plug into these like high pressure situations with his like experience, and with that bring them like across the line. Maybe that's how we can see this Liquid being good.
I mean, in terms of just reigniting the passion, I feel like this is the kind of a move that can definitely do that, just because he's going to have a lot of work on his hands to kind of figure out how to make this work. And he's obviously going to have better players than he had before to work with now. Like, that's pretty undeniable, like that the Liquid players individually were on a much higher level than MIBR in the at least in the last few years, right? So I think this is something that can definitely help with that.
Sure. And I think if we take all of that extra sauce that I squirted on top of that, and you look at it from like a black and white decision, what did Liquid need? Primary AWPer. What did Liquid need? Maybe a more experienced in-game leader. Well, Fallen fits both of those bills.
Yeah.
They still have the fantastic rifling power and second AWPing potential in like Naf, if they want him to do that. Same with Stewie, map dependent, so that gives them flexibility. Elige and Grim, fantastic, you know, riflers to be solid with. You know, Stewie's going to be running and giving up his life for Fallen in a lot. Like, so if we look at the nuances of the game, I think things there are good. And also, I know Jason, I know Moses, right? Like, if there's any bullshit going on, he's not going to allow that. So with Jason as the rudder, right? If he can make sure he keeps control and points the direction of these guys so that they don't get stuck in the mud with things that maybe have hindered in the past, then the potential is there. It's just, I can't sit here as somebody who's not in the pracs, not there with the deals, not there sitting when they're having the meetings of, we're going to add you, this is how. I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't seen them play yet. So I need to wait until I see them play before I can put any stock in it. But there's one thing I would say is, just if I'm Liquid, I would have put like a clause in Fallen's contract. I would have said, Fallen, you can't fucking tweet anymore, mate. Like, you can retweet stuff. You just can't tweet anything. Like, the thing the other day with like Lurpus with the talking about NDAs and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, like, what do you do? Like, this is so, like, Tommy don't give a fuck. Like, he's the guy tweeting about Tesla every day. You think he gives a fuck? Like, he'll push things as far, and he'll make life as difficult as possible. I'm like, we've already had enough PR nightmares from MIBR this year. Can we not rehash 2020? Can everybody just calm the fuck down? So that's where I'll leave it. And let's talk about the other Brazilian team, because we could be stuck on this one for fucking years. This is to do with FURIA adding Junior. So the circumstances behind this one, Henny wanted to go play with his brother, so FURIA were left with not too many options. Also, COVID right now must be difficult to get visas and get people out of Brazil as newer players. Junior was quite the handy AWPer in North America on Triumph, and they've decided to sign and add him. And this was something that was rumored late last year, right? I think it was November or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Before like the last events, like end of November, probably before I Am Global Challenge and Blast Finals.
So I want people to keep that in mind when you think about the last few tournaments you saw FURIA play. If Henny had already made his decision and said, I don't want to play with these guys, I want to go play with my brother, then that's like a lot of the hard work and drive that they would have had leading up to that point kind of gets sucked out of the room. And let's frame this. Let's do the yay or nay. Do we think this, let's frame it this way. Do we think that Junior is a good replacement for Henny? Okay.
I don't know.
It's
You
just,
have to tell
me
what other people are
yeah.
doing, because I don't
feel
have
like-
the stream open.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it was me who went for nay, and Professeur went for yay. So let me tell you why I don't think it was. I think Junior is a good player. I just think you're going to throw him in a team where I know they speak. We know they speak English because we've done interviews with these guys before. Their English is definitely serviceable, and they have enough English to do Counter-Strike, and they play within the region in the pugs and shit, so they're speaking English. But I think that the problem is Henny was such an explosive player in what he could do in the mid to late rounds with that AWP. It's almost going to be impossible for them to be able to replicate that. And I thought in certain situations in 2020, it's not that they were relying on him, but he bailed them out of a lot of like bad rounds or a lot of rounds where he won like a clutch or had a huge impact. So the reason I say nay is because if FURIA try to replicate what they had with Henny with Junior, I think it's going to be very hard. I want to be wrong, but I think it's going to be very hard to be able to convert that in the short term with the language barrier, because I'm sure with the way the art approaches the game, there's a lot of nuance in his strategies and his aggressive moves. There has to be. So I'm hoping that those details don't get lost, but that's why I'm on the nay. Now, Striker, you said yay first. Do you want to jump in here why you think it's a good replacement?
I generally don't think they're going to approach the game the same way with Junior as they would have with Henny, just because they are not stylistically the same players. Henny was quite a very, very passive opper. He wasn't the kind of opper who would just go out looking for opening kills. They had art for a vast majority of that, basically, and Henny was just kind of like the angle holding guy, right? And then just kind of went explosives as you were saying in the late rounds. I think I haven't seen Junior like a lot, but from what I've seen from him, and even statistically when I was looking into him, he definitely seems like more of the aggressive type that will look into getting opening kills early into the rounds and stuff like that. So I feel like they're going to approach it a little bit differently, where Art, not that he's going to take a step back. I think he's still going to be crazy as he has been, but maybe it's not going to be all the responsibility on him, and Junior is going to help out with that aspect of the game. So I think in general, it's just going to make FURIA a little bit more balanced and not as reliant on what Art is doing for them. And then I do see that helping them in the long run. Okay. Obviously, the other side of the coin is the communication thing, which, as far as I know, Junior doesn't speak Portuguese, and the plan is for them to speak English. And you never know how that's going to go. Like people react differently to these situations, so it's kind of hard to tell there. It's definitely a concern, but I don't know if it's going to be a big problem or not. We're going to have to see.
You got anything you want to add to that, Prof?
Yeah, I mean, like my yay was like super weak. Like he's a good player, obviously. Like he has shown potential to go to a better team. From that perspective, it's like, and how you frame the question, I went for a yay, but obviously there are a lot of issues that could prop up there. Communication being the number one thing, and I really don't like them changing from Portuguese, Brazilian to English. I don't think that's going to be good. I don't think it really makes sense in the long run. We see that there are other talented Brazilian players in the scene.
Yeah.
So it's not like they don't have options, especially because Art also can op, and so that they can maybe find a hybrid. Maybe they can find a full-on full-time op. There are a lot of options for them. From that side, I don't like it. I just like it because what were the other options for him, right? So he's going to get more experience, and who knows where he ends up next.
Yeah.
In a way, it almost seemed like these two teams made like the inverse signings.
Yeah.
It really feels like Liquid maybe should have gotten him, and then fall into FURIA with all of the history is kind of weird, but at the same time, maybe it would make sense. Who knows?
Sure. It's the way Fallen could start playing with the players that he wanted for the last 3 years, you know? Because there might be attempts of getting like Yuri and then kScerato, and then I don't know if they were ever talking about somebody else. But obviously those two were a big target for them, and they never could get them. And I mean, who would blame them in the last year, especially like who would join MIBR in the last 2 years over staying in FURIA, you know?
Sure.
So I guess that makes sense from Fawn's perspective, you know, to start playing with them.
And one of the other things that I think that starts to crop up in my mind is FURIA have been vocal about wanting a 6th. I think they said that they were going to announce the 6th today.
Yeah.
So the thing is, that 6th, you don't want an AWPer to be the 6th man to rotate in and out with Junior, right? Because Art already AWPs as well. So you kind of want a rifler, which means that if you want to sub out Junior, you're going to have a rifler come in, which means Art is going to do all the AWPing. Maybe kassad will pick it up if they need it, but then Art's playstyle might have to change a little bit.
I think that's.
I don't know.
I just feel like I don't know if they're getting a Burazin player. Who they're getting, I have no idea. Hopefully we're going to learn as the show goes, and we'll see about that. But if not, I don't think they're ever going to replace Junior just because of the communication thing. Because it would be really fucking weird if they went from, if it's a Brazilian player I'm talking about, by the way. So it would be really fucking weird if they went from, you know, playing with Junior, speaking in English in one series, and then going back to Portuguese in like the next series or next tournament or whatever.
In the next map in the same series.
Yeah, exactly. if they go with like the Navi Astralis Vitality route, you know, switching out players between maps, then it would be even more confusing. So I feel like I would be surprised if that's what their plan was. I feel like it would be more for somebody like Vinny or whatever, thinking about whether there's like an improvement there or something like that.
I just saw someone saying, chat naming more English-speaking players to Brazilian team, like Elige the FURIA. That's the play, because he does actually like speak some Portuguese.
You know,
so that would be interesting.
Would be. I thought it would have been a move at some point, but maybe in the future. Elige still got a lot of Counter-Strike ahead of him. You never know. It's a crossover.
Now he has Fallen to practice with. So.
That's true as well. Yeah, he can translate anything that gets lost in translate. Jesus, there's been a lot of Brazilians through Liquid, right? Steel was there, Taco was there,
yeah.
Bolton was there. They all played
Zeus
together.
as the coach.
They were all together at one point. Well, not all together. Yeah, you know what I mean. They're all connected somehow. Anyway, let's keep it moving. Let's talk about some more Brazilian news. Now, this one right here, there was a bit of drama on Twitter. These guys were very active with their profiles, all tweeting F. Great little throwback there. They were all having a little bit of there's tweets going out when obviously the team decided that this wasn't where they wanted to stay. Now, if you're not familiar with the MIBR roster I'm talking about, it is the one that got formed late last year after Fur and Taco and Dead got the boot. Fallen decided he didn't want to play. It was kNgV and TRK left. They added Leo Drunky, they added VSM, and they added Lucas just for a temporary thing. They actually surprised everybody. They played some passionate Counter-Strike. And I don't mean that in the way that we talk about the fans. I mean in the way that they were actually fucking passionate and getting fired up in the way that we love and remember Brazilian CS. And that was really good to see. But obviously, throughout these contract negotiations, things didn't appear to line up. And now it's meant to be Henny joining that project with Leo Drunky, kNgV, TRK. I don't think VSM's in there, is he? There's no VSM. Am I right?
Yeah, six-man roster.
6 guys.
Okay,
Yeah.
That makes sense for majors and shit. So but he's obviously going to be one of their star players. Now, I don't know if we can yay or nay this one here. But let's go this direction, Prof. Do you think that they're going to find a better deal than what MIBR were offering them? Because I don't know the details of what was being offered there, but it seemed like they weren't getting offered enough money, or accommodation wasn't covered, or something along those lines.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. I think I don't know if I want to like just to go numbers, but I think the number that I heard was like 10K USD plus something was covered, but not full accommodation in the US or whatever. And then I know people were complaining about how much they were getting while boot camping in Europe during the last. And there's a lot of these like things which I found kind of weird in the global climate at the moment, with all of the orgs pulling out and all of this stuff. Like, I'd just take whatever just to be safe, right?
Sign a short deal, like, make sure you're not trapped. Just do something
like
that works.
6 months, a year. Then let's see what happens. Like, but it seems like there was a report about that team going to like Flamengo Esports, which is like the football club, like a big football club in Brazil, making some sort of an esports team. That's something that propped up. So maybe if they had that in their pocket, maybe the whole deal with MIBR was when they even went into the negotiation, they were like, if you don't give us this and this, then we go and we play for our guys back home. Which, even though MIBR is like a big brand name, it's kind of gotten tarnished over the last 2 years. So maybe they see this as a more like prestigious thing for them. I don't know who to compare it with for like European or like American viewers, but it is kind of a big brand.
Yeah, so I think what's kind of interesting with this one here, Striker, is it's reuniting 3 of the players who were together when they were in that PGL major we were just referencing before, right? That was a long time ago now. Do you think that if we just consider them the core, I know this seems ridiculous.
Who's the third one?
Henny, Lucas, kNgV.
kNgV, oh yeah, right, okay.
Yeah. Do we think that these guys as a team, if we're not going to talk about organizations and stuff, we just look at the 5 guys they have as a team or 6, I suppose, and what we saw them do when they were on European soil, do we think this has promise to be a top 20 team?
I don't know. We saw
it's
them,
hard to say.
Yeah,
I'm putting you on the spot here.
If it is, then it's going to be like borderline. You know, they're probably going to be somewhere around that level. You know, being able to compete against the best, but probably not consistently. You know, where they challenge for titles and stuff like that. I feel like they could be like that godsend level team. You know, that's going to be able to upset like a lot of the big teams, but not go far all the time.
Okay. Why do you think they like what we saw at the end of the year was kind of promising? And I know a lot of people, based on that, just saw the trajectory and were like, okay, now these guys are just going to continue this. It's never going to stop, obviously. It's just going to continue this way. But why do you think it's not?
Me or Striker? Or either of us?
Either.
Do you have a take on this?
I think it's not, because when you're a new team, and they obviously had a time boot camping in Europe to catch themselves up individually in terms of, not over peaking and understanding scenarios and stuff. We always talk about this, and I think it got lost a little bit in 2020 because there wasn't LANs, and when roster changes happened, there was so much 6-man bullshit as well, and this stuff going on that we didn't talk about as much as what we normally do. We normally talk about the honeymoon periods of teams, right? These guys came out and they were playing what I would consider classic Brazilian CS. In their not in game, how they were outside of the game, having kNgV there. Like I don't know what the fuck kNgV is saying, but I can imagine that guy has a massive heart that he wears on his sleeve and love for this game. What they're doing is they're playing fired up CS in a modern era. So they're playing by the rules that we have to, be good with our utility and be a bit slower and stuff, but they're still playing with that energy. And I think that energy is something which a lot of the other teams they were playing against don't have at the moment, or haven't had for the majority of 2020, because of the whole COVID situation, right? Like I've been talking to some players recently and asking about this, and I still get the same response of, yeah, like it's hard to get fired up for online stuff, or it's really hard to be motivated. And I, as Chad Burchill, the analyst, I go, that's fucking bullshit. This is your job. You're getting paid for it. You need to be given this 110%. This is still prestigious Counter-Strike. This is all we got. That's the stuff I'd say on top of my soapbox. But when I think about it, and I would try and relate to be in their position, and imagine playing on a stage in Katowice in front of 10,000 fans, or being in that Blast Copenhagen arena and people just going bonkers. And then you're at home in your bedroom, and I'm in my bedroom right now, and I'm looking around, and I don't have my teammates around, and I can't So I think the MIBR had that going for them. I think that they were playing better CS than what we had seen any MIBR roster play for the 2 years before that. But I think that it would have to plateau at some point. And it's not like they were on a consistent, they weren't just playing world beaters, right? They had some games against some teams who were more lower down the mix. So it's hard to consider that trajectory to keep going up and up and up and up. I don't know if that's a good enough reason. It kind of feels a bit airy-fairy, like I'm not pointing out anything technically in the game and stuff. And that's probably because I wouldn't even be able to break down their play style for you overall. But yeah, I'm
curious about, especially, is how they're going to deal with, obviously with them having 6 players, how are they going to deal with Henny and kNgV? I don't expect
it worked before.
I don't expect one of them to be out all the time, Obviously there's ESM as well. You basically have
to be the guy on the rifle, because he seemed to be pretty decent on that in FURIA, if you ask me. Like his rifling was completely fine. Not maybe like the best in the world, not like a top 5 level or whatever, but I didn't see him like miss anything. He had some good clutches. He had like good moments with the rifle, so seemed capable as that. And I think kNgV not being the upper would change too much for that team.
I feel like both of them are capable of like switching around and stuff like that. So I'm not sure. Like, but I just don't see the both of them being out at the same time, or like one of them being out at the all the time, you know. So it has to be like instead of VSM for certain tournaments and stuff like that. And I don't see Henny just leaving his team to be like, you know, potentially like a rotating guy, you know. So
they might
that's
change
another
it
thing.
per map. You never know, right?
Yeah,
like
maybe.
they might
Hard
do
to
it
say
like
today.
that. And I think something that the people in chat, just for those of you who are referencing it, it did work in the past, and then they did as Immortals make that major final. One of the things you have to consider is how much the game has changed since 2017, right? Like, especially you consider 2017 was when they made the final, and then the next year is when Astralis kicked off their dominance and basically completely changed the way that we play the game. So double orbs in the current meta, you have to be really fucking good to make that work on a consistent basis.
It wasn't like that. The Immortals team was actually great. Let's be honest. Like that was their only big result. They had like a couple of like DreamHack Opens and stuff like that where they did well, but they didn't have any other good run practically. So using that as a model of like, this is a good way to play. I don't like it can work for one event, but it doesn't mean it's a good way to play, right?
Sure. All right. Do we have anything else we want to say about MIBR? Apparently, they're going to be picking up the Boom roster, who are minus Phelps at the moment. So I don't know who the fifth is going to be there. I guess that's about it.
And the rumor is Phelps goes to the Taco team, right? With
Duma
with Dead Dumal, like Dead is co-owner or something, and then or I don't know, just running the team, and Dumal, Lato, Phelps, Taco, and someone else. So that's kind of the rumors that are flying around for some time.
I like that. Like. I actually like the sounds of that if there is a team, because what it feels like they're doing to me is like they're separating the pieces, right? If Fallen goes to Liquid, he can help Liquid. Like if we get the best at it, Taco gets a chance to redefine himself, because in that team, if I was Taco, I would want to be the in-game leader. I played with Fallen, I played on Liquid, I played top tier Counter-Strike for the majority of my career. I would, my career is now shifting. If I was Taco, I'd want to be the in-game leader. He could be like a karrigan style entry in-game leader, making space and having shit called for him, instead of being the guy who Fallen goes, yo, listen, Taco, mate, we don't need you to fucking run out B-apps and die, and we don't have any flashes for you. And he has to do it, right? But if he goes as an in-game leader and he can make the strats around him finding space, that's cool. And then these young guns, he can help grow another team. And let's say that Boom, they get a solid fifth. Well, we already know Bolts has good experience with those guys have all been playing in North America in the realms of, we could actually, because of MIBR falling apart, see ourselves with more Brazilian teams who are competitive, which is really exciting, if I'm honest, because it stagnated for a while, like the Polish scene, like the Swedish scene. But the what Fallen and his boys have done over these last years is build an insane grassroots platform that now they can actually go and harvest, right? They can go back and harvest this, and they can work out where they want to go. So hopefully good things for Brazilian Counter-Strike, and hopefully we get to see more from all of those players I just listed. Now let's keep going. We're fucking already 51 minutes in, and we're only in our second topic with the roster talk. All right, next one. Cloud9 caught all you guys sleeping again. Striker, do you want to
twice?
you want to summarize everybody at home? What the fuck's going on here?
All right. Well, first of all, they just parted ways because kassad, apparently there was some stylistic clashes, they called it, between, that's what Henry G called it, between Alex and kassad. Obviously they just didn't see eye to eye in terms of how to play the game. I wouldn't see too much into that apart from what they actually said. I feel like that's a pretty legit reason, that you just have to have a certain amount of chemistry between the in-game leader and the coach. So I think that makes a lot of sense, that if that partnership doesn't really work out for one of them to split, and it has to be the coach in this case, I feel like there's no way you're ever going to go replace Alex with anybody as good. So I feel like that's kind of a legit move, and they figured it out relatively quickly. Didn't really get stumped by it or anything like that. So I wouldn't be as concerned about that move. I would be more concerned about woxic leaving another team like this quickly into his tenure. So that's still a report. I don't think that's been confirmed. But everything points to that being true. That woxic is out of the team. Who's even coming in to replace him? I have no idea.
It's rumored to be Zeppa, right? That's what I was reading online.
I forgot about that completely.
And the other rumor was it was meant to be Elmer Putty replacing kassad as the coach, right? And ending back up on Cloud9, where he was there as an assistant coach. I thought it was. Now, let's let's break this down, and we'll bring out the buttons again. We'll yay it or we'll nay it.
There we go.
Yeah, this is a weird one to do here. I'm trying to work out how we even define this. Oh fuck. Maybe I don't on this one. Once again, the man who is the general manager of the team is literally on the other side of that wall.
Are you scared?
No, I'm not scared. I'm not scared. There's none of that. I'm trying to work out how I can phrase a question with two changes into being a yay or a nay.
Yeah,
they're definitely different.
Yeah. So okay, I agree with what you framed.
I feel like the kassad one. I feel like we see eye to eye on that one. No.
Yeah, I think so. Prof, you on board with that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird. Like both of the changes though are weird. Like how does it happen that like some of these like massive differences that are literally unworkable are not like spotted earlier before you get to this point? That's the weird part for me.
Do you think it's still pretty early though? Like because when did this team officially get announced? And
maybe like
complete in October, I want to say.
Okay, so
maybe 3 months, but at the same time they played I think 18 series total.
Okay. Now, that's not a lot of Counter-Strike, but when you think about it, they went from 5 individuals who had no connection with each other than the fact that Mezzy and Alex are both British. And some people say that Alex is a fake Brit. So, like, that is the only connection. Woxic, the whole Mouseport situation, at the time, there was comments about it being more of a personal issue. But then the teammates came out and dispelled that, I think. I'm not 100%. My memory's a bit foggy on that. They obviously got Alex as like the mantle of the team because you needed an in-game leader to have that direction. And then ESEA was the final piece. But I think there's things that like need to be considered. It's like, well, are these the players that they this is not meant to sound terrible, but are these the players that they 100% wanted? Like, did they want this guy, but they couldn't get him, so they settled for this guy? Or they couldn't get this guy, so they went in this direction and filled the gap with this guy, right? Like, I think and obviously I'm biased. I just told you guys Henry's on the other side of the fucking wall. So I look at these changes, and first of all, the kassad one, he's meant to be linked up with the EXTREMUM project, right? So if he already had like another offer, like let's say ESEA came to him and said, yo, kassad, do you want to come fucking coach the boys again? We'll be in Europe. We were fucking sick in Europe. You remember fucking Katowice? We made it to the playoffs with boot camp, and it was awesome. Now we're going to be in Europe all the time. Kassad doesn't have to be in North America. That's one of the reasons I'm pretty sure he left them in the first place. And they might be able to return to that form. So the kassad one, yeah, we've all kind of put that one aside. But also at the same time, think about this woxic situation. They picked him up. Woxic is like, he's a LAN player, right? In my mind, where the best woxic moments are on LAN. If he isn't able to, first of all, I don't know exactly, but I'm from Malta at the moment and my internet is dog shit. So I can only assume that like Turkey's internet is probably not great either because they're also a bit more down. So I don't know if their internet's bad, but I'd assume it's probably not the 5 ping that the Swedes and Danes are running around with. I think if you were going to make a change and you were going to make a key change like a woxic, you may as well do it sooner rather than later. If he's not fit, if he's not working with the team, if there's like a conflict in the team between players, if there's all of that stuff going on and it's this early in the team, wouldn't it be better to make the change early as opposed to trying to work through it? Because the way that Henry pitched this all, and you guys all jump on him, and rightfully so, he spoke a big game. If things don't work, you guys are going to talk shit about it. But if he's going to make these changes now and quite aggressively, I can see why it makes sense. Because if they see problems, what's the point of wasting money and wasting time when they think that they need to go in a different direction? Now, all of this stuff, we got to wait for it to get officially announced if that's going to happen, and we got to see. Maybe he's a 6th man. Maybe he's on the roster. I don't know. I don't know.
But let's just roll on what we have as reports as of now. The second issue, let's say, like your logic makes sense. We'll say they had issues. They decided to make cuts sooner rather than later. The second issue but kind of a problematic part of it is that if the players that they're getting are Zepa and Alamapadi, then how does that even fucking work? Not like, number one, the coaching is not that inspiring. Like kassad's probably one of the top 5 coaches you'd want on a team. not saying autimatic is shit or anything, but it's just not the same level, right? Not as experienced. And then Zeppa, as potentially a pretty good player, but not an opper. Would they even have to replace that?
Is tag
Probably has to be, surely.
Like, well, he in heroic he did some secondary AWPing, and I know like when
he
JUGi was out, he did
AWPing
primary
for a while
AWPing
too.
Yeah. I'll play devil's advocate on the autimatic thing. Can you list me any other coaches at the moment, Prof, that are free? Like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just curious.
No.
I'm
not saying from that point of view, but just like from where Cloud9 were and the
Sure,
level of
okay.
hype and everything that was promised, right? That is kind of disappointing, right?
Yeah. Well, I can get that. I guess the only thing is, and the way I was really strongly considering coaching this year. And one of the things is, it's like that role is so undefined, and it's behind such a curtain of what these coaches bring to the table. And it hasn't been a lot of time for coaches to be able to make a name for themselves. Like, also a shitload of coaches are currently fucking in hot water, right?
So a lot of people are actually saying that Alex is opping in chat. So I don't know if this can't be unlocked.
I heard that somewhere, but I wasn't sure how.
Alex is opping in FPL. Alex will op. Alex is op.
Okay.
Okay.
Report said Alex, so probably our report said that. I did not see that.
I remember hearing this somewhere, but I wasn't sure where people got it or how it made any sense. I haven't really seen him opping too much.
Sure.
So.
Okay. Well, if Alex is going to be AWPing, then that's
not
AWPing
in
game leader. No, I look.
The new Fallen.
Yeah, I don't know. That kind
I can't even imagine it. It just feels so.
It's random as hell. I don't know. I don't know why.
Well, I
would have almost like expected Messi to take it up because he was kind of like a secondary opera in his team before he joined Cloud9, but it's just like it's either him or ESEA, right? And then it's for it to be Alex just doesn't make too much sense to me. I don't know. It's hard to say before we see them play with it.
I suppose it depends on what type of system they want as well. Like, let's say that this woxic situation, he's gone, right? Well, that is an indication that maybe they don't want their team built around a star AWPer.
I mean, they can't really anymore. I think
no one does that on purpose. I think.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, that's an interesting one.
Well, unless you're Vitality.
Jesus, that's an interesting kettle of fish over there as well. All right, do we have anything else we want to talk about with Cloud9?
Particularly.
I was going to say the wrong word there for a second. I don't even know where the fuck did that word come from.
The C one?
No. I think I was going to say pontificate. I was like, why would I say that? What am I, some fucking?
What does that even mean?
I think it's like pontificate.
Doesn't that mean like become a pope or something?
Express one's opinion in a pompous and dogmatic way. If there's any word that has anything to do with pompous, I definitely don't want to say that one. Sometimes things just come in my brain. Like, I don't even know where. Anyway, you don't want to.
Let's move on, man.
You don't want to be in my brain. Where are we here? Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. I alluded to it just before. This is the EXTREMUM situation. So apparently, if you guys haven't been following this, last year, 100 Thieves, they dropped their Counter-Strike team. Then JKS went to Complexity.
This is a story, what they're doing.
Well, it's actually pretty epic because this is the thing that maybe you guys, as international Counter-Strike fans, don't understand. But BnTeT is like the nemesis of the boys, right? Back in like minors and stuff, and they're going toe to toe, and BnTeT, and Tyloo and shit, and that whole saga. And now they are uniting their forces. BnTeT is joining with the boys to replace JKS in what was the 100 Thieves team, to create some form of a mutant EXTREMUM roster. And having BnTeT replacing JKS, I couldn't think of somebody, he's almost perfect for the job, I would say. If BnTeT can he's listened to the steps that BnTeT's made. Southeast Asia to China, China to North America, North America now to Europe. And if he can continue to be a sick player, like he could be the perfect replacement for JKS in this mix. Now, let's yeah or nay it. Do we think this is I already just fucking all said it all, Chad, you fucking idiot. Ask the question first. Well, yeah or nay anyway. Do you guys think this is a good move? I won't vote. You guys vote. You both think it's a good move. Prof, you were first. You wanna double down?
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. It actually just makes sense. They needed that star player in some form, not the same to the same level, I think, of JKS, at least not yet. But in the past, BnTeT was actually maybe more exciting, maybe like 2018, 2017, around that area. He was like literally hard carrying Tai Lu into relevancy and calling at the same time with people that didn't even speak the same language as he did, and calling in 3 languages like English, Chinese, and fucking whatever, something else, Indonesian at the same time, because he's a fucking legend. So that's it's fucking legit. So yeah.
You want to throw anything on top here, Striker?
No, not particularly. I see that being true. The only thing that I would add maybe is that because obviously the main problem when we heard that those 4 were coming back together was that okay, but they don't have a JKS, to put everything on and then have them carry like almost every game, right? So what I was thinking at the time before I heard the BnTeT move was coming was that they just want to make Liaz back into a star player, right? Back into the role that he played when he was wherever he was before he joined How to Thieves. I'm forgetting the name for some reason.
Was it Order? Was he in Order?
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking, but it just didn't click for me.
That's all right.
Anyway,
I should know this shit, not you. This is my
but he was definitely more like the JKS type player at the time, right? So I feel like that made sense to me, and maybe that's still the plan, and just have BnTeT like an extra star. I feel like that makes sense to me. So while I didn't like the reunion at first, I feel like at this point it makes a little bit more sense to me. I don't expect them to be any better than they were before, like a top 10-ish team. I feel like they're still going to be around that level if they if they can replicate that. But yeah, I just don't see it as bad of a move as I thought before, just because reunions don't really work in general.
One thing that I'm super curious about here, boys, is what the fuck happens with their RMR points and what the fuck happens in the ESL World Rankings, because
I'm pretty sure the RMR points are going to be back with them.
Yeah, which is meant to be in Europe.
They had the trio the whole time, but they'll probably
reset if you play in Europe.
That's the issue. Maybe
they have to come back. They could just travel back to North America for their RMR events, right? It's not. Obviously it's complicated these days, but it's not like an unsolvable issue.
Yeah.
So they could just come back to North America and play those.
How many
couple of months?
Would there be like 2 RMR events before the major, right?
2 to 3,
at least one
3
LAN.
at most for sure. They said initially online and then at least 1 LAN, so it has to be like 2+.
Last year we had
3.
So we should probably have 2 before the major, right? So I don't see that as too big of an issue.
Yeah, I'm just having a look here on the ESL World Rankings as well, because like their points, they would have points as well. Like if you guys look at Cloud9, as I know we do the HLTV rankings, but the reason I bring this up is because this directly influences what events for ESL, like your world rankings and your EPT points, right? If the boys come back and it's the 4 of them, their points will obviously have been decayed. But Cloud9, for example, off the back of just ESEA points, because Alex would have had very few, woxic would have had some, Mezzy would have probably had none, and Floppy would have had very few as well. They were able to find themselves, within the realms of the first page of the world's rankings, right? So with the boys, they will probably have a similar situation, which would then put them back in contention for invites to events and stuff. And I'm curious to see how they're considered. Are they considered an oceanic team in Europe? Are they considered a European team? Like in North America, they were considered a North American team. But let's say in this situation, if we're back at LAN and IEM Sydney or whatever Oz event happens, well, they're still the ones who are going to get the spot, not Renegades, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how all of that kind of works, because I don't think we've had like a team disintegrate and then reform.
Come back together,
like it's really weird, but it's exciting. And I wish all the best for them, because it's some people I'm pretty big fans of. But just to play devil's advocate for a second, this could all go to shit, right? You were bang on, Striker. If Liaz has to step up and be more of a star player, BnTeT also needs to continue to be a star player, and Jacob needs to do what he was doing with JKS before on the roster. Then we need Grat to be more serviceable or just consistent on the AWP. He doesn't have to be a superstar. Don't worry about being a superstar. Just be consistent. And then the drive from Azza to the in-game leading. They need all those things to align, or they will just be meh, right? And that's not what we're looking for here.
I think the only still interesting part that remains is like Kassad actually rejoining them after
again. This is the second time.
Yeah, third tenure with the team. If it's confirmed, it's not confirmed, but it's obviously going to happen because
Well, no one said anything, right?
Unless something
last
like
minute.
radical happens in the EXTREMUM camp, I guess. It's like, why did he leave then? And it's something weird. It's weird, but even they all admitted that they have this kind of a weird relationship where at certain points things got kind of bad in the team, and then they kind of clear the air, then things start going well again, and then I don't know, they just need to like clean their pores or whatever. So cool.
Get a mud mask on.
Yeah,
new year, new me. That's the motto. All right, let's keep it going. We still have so much.
I was gonna make such a horrible pun. Oh my god.
Oh dear. All right, well, it's a joke that never was, but let's talk about fnatic. Let's yay or nay. Jackinho in replace of flusha. Yay or nay?
where's my thing?
You're the deciding vote right now, Prof. Just so you're aware. Oh, okay. I'm the I find
You're the positive one here.
Yeah, this is strange. Jesus. Okay. I think this move excites me for a few reasons. Now, I'm probably going to say something, and then someone in chat's going to be like, no, but JW is still going to be AWPing. This guy is meant to be an AWPer, right? We spoke about this on the show before. He's meant to be an AWPer. So
he's not going to be. They've already said.
Let's just listen to what chat has to say. Let me listen to what Striker has to say.
But they've already said that JW will be AWPing though.
Yeah, but let me operate in my little bubble, right? Because this is probably what's going to happen once they realize this is a dumb idea.
Ahead.
Okay, you're bringing in a kid into a team who is a primary AWPer, like that's what he does. Then they're going to bring him in and make the kid rifle and put him completely out of his comfort zone. That's not going to work. So once that fails at the start of the year, then they're going to move to what I'm about to say. Old boy Jackie, we'll call him because we don't have Jacks anymore. He's going to go. He's going to be an AWPer. He's going to fucking flourish. A bit like what happened with Brokey when he was doing that kind of a role. I think it makes sense if they want to change their style of play as well. I think if you are removing flusha, who is part of the core, Crims, flusha, and JW, that natty chem that I talk about when I'm on broadcast with how long they've been together and, you know, like the fact that they don't communicate a lot and they have good synergy in game and understand what each other, that's gone. We can turf that whole narrative now. Golden can start leading this team in a different way. And I think that if he can start leading them in a different way that is a little bit more on meta, then we can see Jackie Boy, primary AWPer. You can have your two rocks, Brolin and Crims. Brolin loves running in and headshotting people. He'll even do some fucking entry work for you. Crims will do the same when no one else is doing it. You see Crims, he gets a little bit angry and he goes, I'll just fucking kill everybody. Those two players, both still in the top 20 of this year. Fantastic. JW now becomes your X Factor. He was the X Factor before, but he was the X Factor who was the AWPer and kind of alone. So now JW can still do his crazy aggro plays. He can still do the crazy aggro plays with an AWP, but then you've got this other boy who can now take that role and fill those slots and still be as instrumental. So I think before you had an overlap a little bit with Golden and flusha in terms of in-game leaders are meant to be, at least in my mind, the ones who are more flexible, right? You're rotating around, you're filling the gaps. flusha does that because he's an intuitive player. He understands the game on a very, very high level. So he was naturally doing that. I think it might have been a little bit of overlap. So now they obviously want to stick with Golden as the in-game leader. That's cool. I like that. I think that's good. Then just you don't need to shift the roles of Crims and Brolin. You just kind of shift the roles of this new kid to make sure that he's still doing his comfortable job, get the most out of him. JW can still do his crazy shit, and you can actually play current meta. That's why I think it could be good in the future. But if they do what you're saying, Striker, yeah, tell me why you think it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see it. I just don't see it as the right replacement, right? I imagine it's not how it went exactly with like, you know, obviously first had to come the flusha leaving rather than them. I'm pretty sure that they didn't just straight up replace him, you know? I feel like that had to come from him. And so if that comes, then sure. Like, I guess you just have to take whatever talent there is and just work around it, right? But then obviously if you want to, I have 100% agree with you. If you want to take in a new talent, you don't want to put him outside of a comfort zone immediately.
But why do you think
never worked? I feel like.
Why do you think he's not topping?
Wish I had an answer for that.
Exactly. I don't know.
But, like how I understand,
I'm going to tweet about it right now.
How I understood it and what I read from the interview, that it was like on some Swedish site.
Yeah.
It literally said in the beginning, JW will be opping. So
No,
how
I think what that
this,
meant is just like, if that doesn't work, if that works out, we're gonna keep doing that.
The way I understood it is like, we are Fnatic. We just got this kid that has like almost no competitive experience, especially on the top level. So we don't want to throw him into the opping role and like going to op duels against fucking Simple tomorrow. So we're just gonna put him in the rifle role for the beginning, just to like play, get a feel of the team while JW plays his roles. And then after some time, we do the swap. And that's how I understood it, even though they didn't say this. But to me, this made sense. And that's it. That's kind of the plan from my point of view. Even though Jackinho said that he used to be like, he's kind of a flexible player, so he can play either. I think that's kind of bullshit as well, because all of the games that he played recently were with the op. So why, like, if they don't want him to op, then they wouldn't pick him. They'd pick someone else. There's like a bunch of these like second, like third tier Swedish players, up and comers now that are getting picked up. They'd pick someone that's a rifler if they didn't want to hopper, in my point of view. And I think JW can be a pretty good rifle and like flexible in that, like an art style player. I originally went for Nay. I
saw you change it.
I changed my mind. Did you feel proud? I'm like, I'm SPUNJ. I'm just nailing this so hard. He had to change his mind.
No, I thought that you just misclicked. That's all.
No, I was thinking from the like flusha point of view. I'm kind of like sad that they're losing that part of it.
Yeah.
But from the other side, it makes sense to go for that kind of a pick. And JW did have some good form this year, like last year, but overall wasn't like that impressive. So let's give it a try, give like some new talent a shot. And I also don't know if this guy is up to par for what Fnatic need. Like, he doesn't really have tenure anywhere near this level. So
sure,
everything could be good on paper, but then he just maybe isn't. Maybe he is like Draken or something that's kind of okay, but not it, right?
Sure.
We'll see.
Yeah, what I was mainly doing the nave for, it's not entirely Jackinho or like the opping situation itself. It's just what they're losing with flusha.
True.
We saw what they lost with when he left the first time, and they really their form really went down the drain. And when he came back, they started coming back up again. Obviously, Golden had a big part in that as well, but I think flusha was key to that too. So I feel like with him leaving, I'm a little bit concerned about like them losing the X factor, you know, the secondary caller type guy who's always going to have like a really good idea in the situations that really matter, like in big clutches and things like that. He's always been really good at that. Even if last year he didn't have like the greatest form, I think he hasn't really lost that. So that's just the concern that I have with this move in particular.
Let me pose it to you this way, Striker, just out of curiosity. Let's just say that they're like, because we're going to talk about this one in a couple of topics time, so it doesn't matter if we bleed into it right now.
Sure.
But in the new project that flusha is meant to be a part of, out of the names on the list, right, we know that Sunny did some in-game leading for a period of time at ENTS. We know that flusha has always been very vocal and able to contribute in that same fashion. So let's just live in a hypothetical world where you could have kept flusha or you could have kept Golden, and one of those two is going to be your in-game leader. Which one would you have picked to keep?
Wow.
What was the question? I zoned out. Had to ban someone.
Golden or flusha for in-game leader.
You could only keep one of them.
Golden or flusha?
Yeah.
That's a hard one. Long term, probably Golden.
So I think that right there is probably what Fnatic are doing, right? They already got rid of this guy once. They saw how much of a nightmare it was. And they're banking on the fact that this guy actually wants to be an in-game leader, and like that's what I think, right?
Yeah, I am concerned about that for sure as well. Just because obviously flusha was kind of like the in-game leader, like it wasn't the in-game leader being Cloud9 at first, but then had to be in the in-game leader or whatever. I don't remember exactly the situation. He wasn't there for a very long time. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I would be concerned about that as well. Just, you know, that coming back, you know, him realizing, okay, full-time in-game leader is actually not my thing. I just like, you know, the having a lot of input whenever I have an idea, you know. It's always a very different story between those types of people, somebody who can call consistently all the time and somebody who just has a really good mind for the game, good game sense, and the right ideas at the right time, you know. So that's definitely a concern for that new project.
You're right as well, though. They need a 2i. They need somebody else to step up to fill flusha's role. And I think you're right. I just don't know who it's going to be.
It's probably JW.
It has to be. Like
I don't see anybody else. Crims is just not. I don't feel like Crims or Brolin are the type.
No, I think Brolin's obviously still, like, even though he's a fantastic player, he's still very young. Crims has the experience, but he kind of he'll probably chip in with an idea when he has to. Probably won't chip in with ideas to help, all the time. I don't know. I'm speculating off what we see on player cams. I've never really had a conversation with Crims.
I think what you said, SPUNJ, like linking these two teams and what the Sunny autimatic flusha team needs is an IGL, and then what fnatic probably doesn't need is flusha IGLing over golden.
Yeah,
I think that hits the nail on the head why this move actually happened. That is kind of what I heard, is that flusha is going to be calling in this team, and that he maybe wanted to call in fnatic, so it was literally the decision, either golden or flusha, someone has to go, right? So they went with flusha. That's a theory. So, but yeah, and then we have this other team, which is obviously autimatic, potentially opping, which I'm not too happy with, and then you have flusha potentially IGLing, which was also something in the past that was kind of up and down at certain points, and then Sunny as some kind of an entry player probably, and then +2.
So let's talk about this roster while we have it here, because you were just getting stuck into it. Then the idea of these three players getting together, do we think that these three players as a core, we don't even know who the other players are going to be, could be a competitive unit? Yay or nay?
What do you? Okay, let's put some definition on the competitive part, because that's very
you're right. Let top 30.
Top 30.
Top 30 is very broad. It is very broad. So let's start at top 30. If we all agree, we'll go down a bit. All right.
Right.
Yeah, I'm fine with
that.
Okay, top 30. I think we all agree.
We all agree top 30. Right? Let's try again. Top 20. You can change your votes. Okay. Prof's changed his vote. Prof.
I'm kind of also.
Okay. Well, fuck, it's just me. Okay.
You said yes?
Yeah, I said yes. I feel like I'm delusional now. What am I
doing?
doing?
You know what this trio feels to me like? Literally phase. This is a phase lineup. This is literally
you're right.
Players. Like, I love all of them.
You're right.
In different periods. Like I think they were great players at some point, but they are all past their prime. Like, maybe they can still be great. Like, they can still be very good, but I don't think anyone will reach what they already accomplished. I think that is, like, from an individual level, maybe as a team they can accomplish more, but that's something that I feel like this staleness when I look at these three players, even though, like, I appreciate all three of them, and I think they are good pieces for a team. When you get this as the core, you really need to get like two fresh young players. I think that is what they want to do.
Yeah.
But those two players need to be like something fresh and exciting for me to have.
Okay.
I'm definitely on the same page as Prof. If they get two players who are like really up and comers, I can see how they could become really big stars and like whatever in the next year or something. I can see them as being like the stable core that's going to bring them up and kind of build around the new talent more than building around a Sunny or around, maybe you can build around autimatic, but I'm probably not around the other two. And so if that happens, I can see that team being like a top 15-ish, contender for sure. If that doesn't happen, if it's good, two more names that like we've seen compete for a long time, haven't really been at like a high level for a while, I feel like it's just going to be maybe a top 30 team, that's going to do okay, but nothing amazing.
Yeah, you guys, like, the way that you've laid that out, I have to agree, because like the sense is, actually, let's play a fun game. Let's who do we think, like, are there any names, right, like, who are floating around right now? Whether or not they're in free agency is another question, and we can have that. But with let's have a concept around this call. So let's assume that Flush is in-game leading and Sunny's the 2IC, right? I think that would make sense. He tried it in NC, it wasn't very good. Flusher was okay as well, but maybe the two of them together with a good coach can be good.
Right.
And let's assume that autimatic is serious and he wants to keep AWPing, which pains me. It pains me because he is such a fantastic rifler. But let's assume all of those factors just for this little thought experiment. what players off the top of your head do you guys think that we could plug in here and make this competitive? Is there anybody like in the
everyone
top 20 realm?
Spamming Flames from he's an endpoint, right? The
Sure.
young kid.
Yep.
That was a lot of bold predictions. Other than that, nothing comes to mind instantly.
I mean, they're mainly looking for like a second guy in type, like really high fragging type, just because Sunny is going to be like
they
an
can't
entry.
get Modern probably, but that would be a good pick for me.
Yeah, so somebody of that ilk, someone who's quite keen on going in first or second.
Yeah.
Um,
And is pretty still young and like hungry, didn't really achieve much. So
Yeah.
I think something like that would be good.
is there a free agent list rolling around? I know we always seem
I'm
to
trying
do
to.
one.
Oh, fuck,
It's
I have
always
one.
hard.
I have
You
one.
had one?
I have one. I just need to find the
The
link. I have it saved.
forums are good for that. I won't lie. I love clicking through and people have like make free agent lists and everybody talks. Like I don't read the comments after that. I just like reading what people are throwing out there.
Sure.
Here's one. I mean, some of these are like kind of semi-signed, unsigned, whatever. So,
Oh shit! Okay.
Oh, okay.
pretty
Lucas,
decent list.
yeah,
That is a
bring
lot
this
of
up.
people.
Bring this up, Lucas, and just give a little bit of a scroll through. So let's just go down this top to bottom, and we'll just go through. And I think if I say a name and I
Or
don't
something like Diha as well. He would be he's pretty good in Sprout. He's still signed to them though, so he needs
Yeah.
to be bought out.
What about Jax?
He's more of like a typical entry, right? I don't.
Would they need an
He-
entry?
And he's also kind of older. Though.
That Sunny's
true.
entering, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
That's what
Twists-
he's been doing anyway.
Twist is possible. Twist is out
Twist
there.
is definitely a possibility. I feel like it's kind of on the edge of what we were talking about, like whether we would want or not.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind it for sure.
At that point, though, it's like I know Twist is still very young, but it's all very experienced players. It's all people
Right.
who know how to win. What about like an Esperanto or something?
I think he's like too big of a risk at the moment.
He's crazy.
Maybe-
He's crazy and whatever. I know that's a bad pun. I didn't even want to make it, but
Wow, just click for me while you're Jesus. Fuck,
I didn't. That was unintentional. I just had to smile after I realized.
Maybe someone like Mihu. Also, I'm just going for Polish players now,
Sure.
obviously.
Yeah, it's yeah. They could do it. They could make a team. They definitely like. I bet you guys are right.
There's
Absolutely,
the-
the kids.
There's the Obo possibility, who's kind of just started saying that he wants to go to Europe, but I wouldn't take that risk just because of how the way that he left Complexity. But Obo is definitely a decent shout, I think, just because it's kind of the type of a player they would be looking for sure. Even like stylistically, the way the roles that he would fill in,
Yeah, I think
kind of like more on the side and stuff.
I think if they were going to do that, have somebody that young come in, they need to have a strong org with strong management to. I'm going to sound like a cunt when I say this, but I don't care. To babysit him, and not in the sense of to hold his hand and to make sure he's eating and to tuck him into bed at night. To help a kid, he is a kid in my mind. If you were,
I mean, he is like, what is he? It's 17 or 18?
17,
17, right?
He's a kid, right? They need somebody who can help him just grow as an individual, right? Like this is the formative years of this guy's life. So anyway, I've gone off a fucking tangents and talking about how to grow up and shit.
But yeah, they also definitely need like a good coach in there with all that. And it's worth mentioning as well that this team, like this trio was not supposed to, but wanted to make a team in the past. Like they were interested. That was like the beginning of 2019, I think, something like that. When Sunny was a free agent, autimatic and flusha were Cloud9 something. So Sunny was even reported to go to Cloud9, but that then fell apart. At a different time, I think even there was a mouz sports lineup, which was supposed to be like Rob's Sunny, Alu, flusha, something like that. That was also like an option. So these guys want to play together for quite some time. So for them, I guess it's something they're kind of not maybe clinging on to, but something they wanted to have do for quite a long time. And I'm not sure that is positive. I think sometimes you have these ideas, you think they are good, and maybe they are good in the past, but not in the present. But you're still like clinging on to what you thought back then, at how things were. So I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical overall.
Sure. Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like it's exciting because of what the names have accomplished, but whether it has any legs is something we have to wait and see what happens there. Let's keep it moving. Envy transfer list the team. Quick question, yeah or no? Is Envy the worst managed CS:GO team in Counter-Strike history? Yeah or no?
In Counter-Strike, bro, there's so many.
In CS:GO, okay, let me redefine. Here we go. That's a very broad. In CS:GO, has Envy been one of the worst managed teams with a high profile or a high budget or both?
I mean, that is definitely a yay.
There you go. That's all I wanted to get, is just how badly fucking run this thing was. And this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen. This is probably the second or third time you have heard us talk about Envy in, I don't even know how long I've been doing this podcast for, but this team used to be, when I was competing, one of the absolute very best teams in the world. They were a powerhouse organization that came from Call of Duty. They had so many fans. They were fucking huge. I remember playing a Gfinity event and Hastro was there and he had these French boys, Happy and Co and stuff. And I remember talking to him and just like how good they had it back then. And then it just feels like whatever the fuck has happened with the team, I don't even hate the fact that they, wanted to turn North American, but then for some fucking reason they imported all of these Europeans. Like I could have seen it if Hastro just went, we're gonna get like a Triumph, or we're gonna get like a team like that, and we're gonna build them up and have like. But he wanted to have a team that could be competitive on the world scale, but just made terrible decisions. And no offense to Nifty, you're a great talker. I love you, kid. You're very switched on. You're a really nice dude. But there's no way Hastro should have ever given you the keys to that fucking car. That's like me as a 16-year-old, and I'm just learning how to drive, and I go up to my dad and say, "Hey, Dad, can I drive your new truck?" If he let me drive the new truck, he's probably a fucking moron, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a 16-year-old kid.
And you're not even gonna just destroy the car. You're just gonna kill someone else. And that's essentially what Nifty did with this. It's like Mihu and Kalex wasted a whole fucking year doing nothing. They played 30 games.
I heard they weren't even practicing.
They weren't in America for half the time.
So they weren't practicing. They weren't doing shit. They were just when we talk about the definition of stealing paychecks, right? I don't know how much money they were getting paid, but probably for what they were getting paid to what they were putting out, what value did they bring to the organization?
They didn't play a match in 4.5 months.
What the fuck, man? This is the thing. This is the thing where I know it's really difficult in the Counter-Strike landscape to get good players because their buyouts are all fucking insane and salaries are huge. I understand all of that. And that's why I wouldn't have had any problems if Hastro decided he just wanted to go not grassroots, but just keep it within the bubble of North America. That's a transition I can respect, right? I could definitely go, yeah, we were once the top of the charts in Counter-Strike, back when it was kicking off in the heyday, blah, blah, blah. But now we're a North American organization and we want to focus on North America in the future. Dude, I'll fucking toe that line any day of the week. You could sell that to me. Hastro's a great talker. I love the guy. He's a really nice dude. But in this situation, they've really dropped the ball. And I think it's maybe really hampered some of these guys and their progression, right? Like Legia was the coach, then he moved to being a player. If your coach has the power to do that with himself, Jesus. I think
he wasn't the coach anymore. He didn't do that because he was the coach, because Kuben took over as the coach.
Right.
They were just missing a player, so he's like, okay, I'll play, bro. Okay,
yeah, that's true.
I don't he did okay for what you expect from a guy that retired 2 years ago, and what the fuck is going on? It's just a waste of everyone's time. Almost.
To be fair, by the way, when I saw them play at the end of the year, they weren't even that bad.
In the Flashpoint, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking at them in that Flashpoint. They actually made
played
sense.
More games.
Exactly. Maybe it would have gone somewhere if they actually played, but it definitely didn't seem like a team that never practiced or anything like that. I feel like they put in the time. It's just they didn't actually play anything of relevancy, right? So it's just
I
mean, people are saying when you ask the question mismanaged, and they said MIBR ends. I don't think you can even compare to Envy this year, any of those teams. Those teams still had exposure, brought in brand deals, and surely signed a bunch of deals based just on Alu like the whole Red Bull commercial, whatever thing, that just insta-locks you Red Bull probably, and insta-locks 50k euros in a year or whatever. I don't know. Something, I don't know how much they would get for like being a Finnish team that is kind of small, but at the same time, meme big, whatever. But they brought in something. MIBR, I don't even have to talk about how much exposure Fallen and Co bring to that team. kNgV, like, is anyone buying fucking nifty jerseys, or is like someone, I don't know what they brought, like absolutely nothing. So from that point of view, it's incomparable.
And this as well, right? So they played in Flashpoint. I don't know what else they played in, but
nothing. The new lineup literally didn't play for like 3 months after it was like announced or something.
So put this in perspective. They're a partnered Flashpoint team, right? They're a partnered Flashpoint team. I'm pretty sure, or they were. So Hastro,
at least they were, yeah.
Hastro paid for that roster lots of money to compete in one tournament.
They played throughout the year, obviously, and they played in the previous Flashpoint as well. So it's not like they didn't play anything throughout the year, but like the latter half of the year, they literally just played Flashpoint. Yes.
Yeah, it's just like you paid the prize money of the teams that placed on the podium. That's what he did. You paid. That was it. Ugh,
I thought it was also awkward
that enjoying your money. Thank you very much.
I thought it was also that awkward, the way that how quickly the opinion changed or like the plan changed, because like in November or like really close to it, I think it was like late November, Hastro said that they allocated like the biggest budget since like 3 years, in like 3 years or something for 2021. And then 2 months later, he just disbands the team, right? And then says, we'll get the right opportunity if it comes along, right? So it's like, yeah, I don't understand what happened in those 2 months.
That's the thing. Like, if there's any owners out there who want to fucking slide into my DMs and ask about prospects of teams and shit and who you should and shouldn't buy, like, fucking come my way. Because here's the thing: it hurts all of us to not have an org like kNgV in Counter-Strike. So if there are teams out there and organizations out there and you want some free advice, I'll fucking slide in, right? Like, even if it's just should I get this player? Like, because we need to make sure that our infrastructure and our landscape is sustainable. And the thing is, there's no problem with having more competitive teams and more teams of profile. That's actually good, right? So hopefully we can fix out this shit going forward. Let's finish that one and let's move on to the next one here, which is the karrigan rumors. Now, how long have these karrigan rumors been going on for, Prof? It feels like half a year.
2 months.
I swear it feels longer than that.
Feels like
players have been trying to get
2-3 months or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, it started when even before the Nico rumor started, like or around the same time, because that's essentially when FaZe started looking for a new in-game leader.
Right.
So, and the Nico rumor started like a month or two before he signed. So that was like somewhere after the player break when that first surfaced. I feel like maybe not even surfaced, but like back channeled around.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if it was like, okay, karrigan would make sense, mouz are not doing well and stuff like that, and then like it became a real thing. I feel like that's one of those situations.
So like the idea went around before the actual.
Yeah, that's what I would assume anyway. I don't actually know. I just think that was the case. But just to explain this, right? Because mouz actually confirmed this. I mean, not the FaZe part, but the fact that he is kind of like considering his future with the team and whether he will stay or not.
Yeah.
And because he didn't give an answer in time, and so they decided, okay, well, we just have to look into our options, right?
Yeah.
And if he leaves, we just have to have a replacement lined up. So that's basically the deal.
Okay. So let's lay this out for everybody at home. So the current roster at mousesports is karrigan, Rops, Chris J, bmouz, and Frozen, right? That's the 5, and their coach is Mytha, who they only recently picked up.
Let me also throw in just like one bit from the Rops top 20 interview where I asked him about like the woxic thing.
Yeah.
At the end, he mentions that their plan was not to have bmouz as the 5th, but to pick up an offer, but that never happened. So that is something to keep in mind when thinking from karrigan's point of view. If it's mousesports that wasn't able to get the player that they needed, and I think we can all agree that they needed an upper.
Yep.
That could also be something that he's dissatisfied with and would be happy to look elsewhere because of, right? Just some
Okay.
context.
No, that's fair. And I think with Yanko's departure and the extra money that comes into FaZe with the sale of Nico, maybe that put a bit of a spotlight under the FaZe management to put a bit more focus on the CS team. And with that extra money, if they wanted to get karrigan, here's the thing.
Just to comment on that,
Yeah.
his contract is running out very soon.
Yeah, when did he join? It was like March last year?
Yeah,
No,
I think that's
not last year.
pretty much the reported time that his contract is 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was like last year. I fucking lost it.
But yeah, it should be running out in March.
Okay, so yeah.
So it's if he's gonna get bought out, it's not gonna be bought for much.
No, but here's the thing, right? Let's lay these two teams out. So you heard me say the mousesports roster again. I'll say it one more time quickly. karrigan, Rops, Chris J, Frozen, BMAS. Bang. They're over that side. Mithra is the coach. On the other side, no coach. We've got Kirby. We've got Rain. We have Cold Zero. We have Brokey. And do we have Olaf? Do we say we have Olaf?
I would say no.
Okay,
well, yeah,
so
let's just ignore that.
Let's just ignore that. So we have 4 players, no coach, and an org that apparently hasn't been hands-on enough. You know, that's kind of the gist and vibe of things that we were getting with all these the changes. So for karrigan for karrigan to go, if I was in karrigan's shoes, there's 2 players and they're on either of those teams who I would want to play with. First, it would be Rops, and the other would be Brokey. And then everybody else, I don't even really care about. Like, I could pick any of those other guys to finish out my team. So if I was mousesports and I had Rops on my roster, the Rops buyout would be fucking astronomical. Like,
I'm sure it is.
It would be insane. So this is the thing. If karrigan's considering that move, FaZe have to be able to incentivize it in some bigger way than just, come over to our fucked up project and try and fix this shit, right? Like, because the team, which sounds more exciting to you guys, right? This is for you guys at home as well. If you it or nad, I can actually see your votes.
Okay.
But these are the 2 rosters.
I can yay or nay.
Okay, here's what we'll do. Yay can be the first roster if you want to stay with that roster, and nay can be the FaZe roster, right? Yeah. So these are your options. This team he's in right now: Chris J, Frozen, BMS, Rops, karrigan. Right? They're doing pretty good. You know, they're pretty competitive. Or FaZe Clan, which would be the nay vote, which would be karrigan, Kirby, Rain, Cold Zero, and Brokey.
Are we talking about karrigan's perspective? Or?
Yeah. Like, no, who do you guys think are better? Like, if you had to compare those 2 rosters, which roster do you think is better?
Can we have like a stalemate? I feel like I don't even know if I can decide.
Sure, but tell me why you stuck on that, right? What?
Just because I don't see future with Chris J anymore. I think he's just generally not the type of a player you want to keep around if you want to keep your place in like a top 10. I feel like he's just way past his prime, right? Okay. We know that he can be explosive like at times, but we know that he doesn't really show it anymore. But on the other side, I guess you still have people like Brokey, who's definitely like still probably not hit his peak, right? He's still got a lot in front of him. Cold Zero, who's still very capable. I don't think there's any question about that. And Rain, who's always been kind of like a player who can fill out a lot of different spots, right? But he doesn't necessarily want to entry too much. And that's always been karrigan doing in FaZe, right? So with that, you free up Rain a little bit more, and it starts making a bit more sense role-wise. And you still have very good pieces in those 4. I'm like Kirby. I mean, obviously, if you have a good replacement for him, if you can get a Rops, I mean, fucking hell, that's honestly, that's a pretty sick lineup all of a sudden, right? But obviously, that's a very big if, and there's very few players that can fill out, as we see with Rops, being seventh in the world in a year where mouz didn't even do that well, apart from like the early days, basically. Like, obviously, that type of a player is very hard to get. So if it's Kirby, I feel like it's kind of like a toss-up between the two teams for karrigan. I don't see a big a big improvement one way or the other, to be honest.
Yeah, and just with this, for you guys who are voting at home, 98 of you, 99 now, think the FaZe karrigan roster would be better than the current mouse sports roster.
Interesting. Okay.
So
There's a lot of FaZe fans.
It's not it's close to 89 to 99, right? There's like, but I think that's probably.
I thought percent. First, I was like,
what? No. Sorry, I should have been more clear with
that.
Yeah. I want to do this as an experiment then, Prof. Out of all of the players, so there's 9 of them. Out of the 9 players that we know between these two rosters, what would let's all 3 of us will do it. We'll start with you, Prof. We'll go to striker, and then we'll end with me, and we'll get the people to vote. You in chat, just type Prof, striker, or SPUNJ, depending on who you think has the best one here, and we'll just look at this screen. What do you think is the best roster that you could make out of those 9? And you can have a 6th man. You can pick one of them to be your 6th.
Oh, amazing. So Rob's obviously number 1, then Broky number 2, 3rd karrigan as the in-game leader.
Yep.
coldzera.
Yep.
And then for the 5th and 6th, that is where I'm kind of not sure. Maybe it's Rain. Maybe you go for KRB. Maybe you go for. I think that 5th and 6th spot. Maybe go for BMAS. Maybe BMAS stays on as a 6th, and that would probably be best for him as well because he's still in school, from what I understand. So he'd want to maybe deal with that.
I need you to pick your 5th, though, Prof. Lock her in.
So who do we have? We have Frozen there. So I'd probably go with Frozen, actually.
Okay. All right. So you've gone Rops, Broky, karrigan, coldzera, Frozen, BMS is the 6th.
Yes.
Okay. Striker, who you got?
First 3 are the same for sure.
Yep. It's funny because we're probably all only gonna have one player different.
100%. I'm still. I feel like Robs and Coldzera is not going to be enough, like a big clash. So I think they can definitely be put in the same team. So I kind of agree on that as well. And on the 5th, I honestly kind of would like BMAS just because of the entry fragging thing. I think it would not put it as much pressure on karrigan to be the entry frag all the time. And I feel like he fits that profile the most.
Don't think Frozen can do that?
He's never been a very aggressive player. He's always been kind of like the like,
3rd in
behind the pack, but he's never been in front. So I feel like BMAS makes the most sense role wise to me.
And who's your 6th?
I mean, might as well just put Frozen in there just because he's kind of young. He can still, fill in one of those spots if they need them to, why not?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think mine is very similar, right? The same starting 3, karrigan, Rops, Broky, that's the core. I think coldzera, because I think that he brings a lot of experience. And then if you're doing your standard 3-1-1 on your T sides, you can have Rops one extremity, coldzera on the other. karrigan can be with one of these young keenies. And then Broky there is the AWP to help with the map control, right? But the last 2, I think, have Rain, mentor BMAS. So have BMAS as the 6th, have Rain as your still ride or die entry fragger. I know, guys, his stats haven't been fucking great, but I think he still can be a good player. So I'm banking on that we still get a bit of the old Rain. I think keep Rain as that guy who can help with, more of being karrigan's right-hand man than Cold. Like in terms of, you got the duo of karrigan and Rain making space, Broky with them. And then if you want to, Rain's getting a bit on, then you can bring in BMAS to be a replacement for him in the future. So yeah, those were the ones we wrote. You guys spam whatever you think right now. There's not an official
it's literally vote. It's literally just 4 of the same players and just like one different one.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. I don't think any of us will get the 4 that we want together, right? Like it's 2 guys from FaZe, it's 2 guys from mouz, and then it's a mixture for the 5th and 6th, right? So it's going to be one of those things. But
I really think like if mouz sports don't find some massive signing, this is kind of a death trap for Robs. Like this team is becoming kind of Nico sports almost for Robs at this moment. Because if you look, you can open the top 20 article and just look at that like big table with all of the stats of the year. He was the best rated player at like 8 of 12 events for them this year, and some of them
like by far as well. Yeah,
it was dumb by how big of a margin. Literally like 40% above the average. Like he was like 120 rating, and his team, everyone was like 0.8. It feels like it's kind of just a waste for his level. I know he does like stat pad a bit and plays in a certain way, which gets him kills a lot of the times, but still, he's a fucking amazing player, and it's sad that he's not used more.
I just want to comment on one of the comments I saw in chat. Cold Brokey karrigan Rops is super passive. Do I watch the same karrigan as you guys?
Yeah, like, karrigan is definitely not passive.
I'm thinking about the karrigan running out team main on train, like weaseling around smokes, or the guy running through Molotovs in banana, like
running through door.
Yeah. I
mean, with Bimas now being on that team, he's gotten a little bit more passive than before, but not he can't be considered a passive player, I don't think.
Yeah. Anyway, we still have a lot of stuff to talk about here. We only have 10 minutes left.
The rest of the three, I agree. By the way, Coldzera, Rops, and Brokey are very passive.
Yeah, I think that Brokey, if he's with the entry pack, like as the AWPer overseeing business, he will be in the position he needs to be, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I don't see a problem with that at all.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Maybe there's some tweaking to be done there, but regardless, let's keep her moving. That's the end of the roster talk. Okay. Boys, do we want to? Here's the thing. We're doing this live, guys. You're in our meeting right now. Do we want to do a show on Monday where we actually do a Blast Global Finals review? And I'm sure there's going to be more news over the weekend and shit. Yeah, I know, Lucas. We can do it at 3. There's no qualms.
On the 18th, right?
Yeah. Do we want to do that?
I don't know if we have like time.
The only problem, the Blast is like media day that day, right? So the only problem is right now we've almost been going for 2 hours and we still have to talk about the year. And I wouldn't mind jumping in with that.
Let's talk about the year and fuck Blast. We can talk about Blast. If we don't do it before, we'll just do it after. It's not like we have much to talk about. It's just like end of year, whatever.
Sure. Stavi, Vitality going up against each other. Let's go.
Yeah.
We don't know how that's going to end.
All right, so we'll leave Blast for now. We're going to talk about the calendar stuff here just quickly. So first of all, I made a tweet saying that I was going to put out a calendar. We'll talk about the FURIA stuff, guys. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Like, I don't even look. I'm not being a cunt.
I mean, we can.
I don't know who Honda is. I'm going to have to do some research before I start talking about him. I can't.
There's not much to be had.
There you go. So I can't just sit here and go, yeah, FURIA added Honda. I can't give you an opinion on that because I don't have one. It literally just happened. I never heard of the guy before. Let me do.
He's going to play at Blast though.
Yeah, we'll find out very soon then. So we'll all work out very soon. But with this calendar stuff, I just want to preface this for everybody. If you saw my tweet earlier in the week or last week or whenever the fuck I did it, I said that I was going to present you guys with the calendar to show you the year. Some of the dates in the calendar that I have from some of these TOs, they haven't made official yet. So I can't be the guy to give you that. That's not my place to do it. I would be burning bridges and I don't want to do that. But what I can do is I can kind of run through the gist of the calendar from how I see it without the visual. I'm really sorry. I wanted to be able to present you guys something, but hopefully it all gets announced soon. So then we can talk about it on the next show. But looking at the calendar, for this upcoming year, obviously we now have the major information to do with the PGL stuff. So I have to add that in there as well. If you are a team who is playing and partnered with, you already know if you're partnered because you're either one of the ESL teams, and you probably as well, if you're an ESL team, there's a high likelihood you're one of the Blast teams too. If you are one of those teams and I see you at any point in 2021 complaining about the amount of tournaments, but you decide to play in Summit, you decide to play in this, you decide to play in that. If you are one of those teams and I see you complaining about burnout, I am going to scold the fuck out of you. I'm warning you now at the start of the year. If you have no control over that, and it is your organization who is forcing you to go to these events, that is their fucking problem, and you need to take it up with your employer. I'm not hearing this bullshit for another year about the calendar being saturated. If you are already signed up to Blast and ESL, you know exactly how much fucking Counter-Strike you have to play this year. I do not want to hear it. I do not want to fucking hear it because you have to have some control over your own destiny. So let's just fucking calm down for a second before you all kick off with the same shit as all the other years. Make some choices or influence your bosses to make the right choices. I can see the calendar. You can see the calendar. There is a lot of Counter-Strike if you play in Blast and ESL alone. And I am not saying play in Blast and ESL alone. If you want to play Flashpoint, if you want to play Summit, if you want to play the Star Ladder event, if you want to play the whatever, I could go on for fucking years. And you want to make as much money as you can, and you want to compete all the time. You want to play in the Home Sweet Home Cup or whatever the fuck it is. If you want to do that, that is on you, right? I do not want to hear that there is too much Counter-Strike. This is a business that all these other TOs are trying to run. They are going to put events on. They are going to do it. There is going to be a Counter-Strike at every level. If you don't play in the tournament, a lower tier team will, right? That's the way that this will work. So I don't want to fucking hear it. We are not going to tailor an entire year because the top 10 teams in the world are too greedy and want to play in every single event and then still complain that there's too much Counter-Strike. Okay, so let's just fucking calm down, and you can see the calendar now. I can see the fucking calendar. So let's think. Now, that's my initial point. Now, once again, I'm not trying to advocate to just play in Blast and just in ESL, but the majority of the teams that you guys watch at home are in those two events. There is a lot of Counter-Strike for those two events, right? There is Pro League, there is the Blast regular season, there is the Blast Showdown, there is the Blast Finals, there is ESL 1 Cologne, there is IEM Katowice, there's a bunch of, there's probably DreamHack Masters events. There are all of these events that are coming, and you can see where they're penciled in, right? You can see and you can plan for those things. And if you choose to fill your off weeks with more tournaments, I will be very upset. You will have not only disappointed yourselves and made your own year bullshit, you'll have disappointed me, because if we don't change this now, your boys are all going to be fatigued again. So just slow it down. Just slow it down. Okay, I got that off my chest. I feel a little bit better. Looking at the calendar, let me just bring it up. I can't show you guys, but yeah, I'm
Don't you think it's a SPUNJ that so then we won't have like some specific good matchups because of that? Is that gonna happen?
That is going to be a problem, right? But we're still going to have like our World Cup, if the major happens, right? That's still where the best teams could potentially meet. But I know what you're saying, but it's like if the same top tier teams just keep attending all the events, and once again, I'm not saying don't attend Flashpoint, don't attend this, don't attend that. Definitely attend it if you want to, but just don't complain about it. You know what I mean?
I also think like some of these, like if you win Flashpoint, there have also been changes to like the Blast, how they invite people to the global finals, right?
Yeah,
so I think if you win Flashpoint, you get invited directly or something. Is that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure both Pro Leagues, both Flashpoints, and then fuck, I forgot
essentially
something
they
else.
simplified because Blast before had their like ranking,
but it was
and
more
like
teams for the global finals.
based.
I forgot what the exact rules are, but I know that both Pro League winners are going to get invited, both Flashpoint winners are going to get invited, and then some combination of other tournaments.
Global finals have
whatever.
8 teams, like it's starting like in 5 days.
No, but the next global
for the
finals,
next one.
is it more?
I don't know how that's going to
TBA
work.
on our site. I'm not sure if anything's been said on that. I imagine it must have, but I just don't remember exactly.
Well, it'd have to if they're giving out to the winners of all the tournaments. So
well, then there would be finals. Each finals would have one, right? Must have been, because that's how it worked now. And
Yeah.
I would imagine they would also use their own, so that's 6 already. And then the rest, the other 2 would just be through the ranking type thing, maybe. I guess that was it. Actually, I feel like that rings a bell.
Yeah. So like with that in mind, that could help teams a lot if they choose to skip these certain events. But like for example, there were certain teams who were already qualified for this global final, but then I believe they still had to play in the fall series. So like even though they were qualified, they couldn't kind of shrug their obligations. They still had to play in the group stages and stuff. I guess that's what happens if you're a partnered team. So let me run you guys through this. I'm not going to say the events because I can't for some of them, but like the way it looks for me is we have the global finals.
I just
said I wasn't going
found
to say
it, by the way.
Yeah.
The Blast Global Final, 2 teams coming from the spring and fall champions of the 8 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Last 6 teams will come from ESL Pro League seasons 13 and 14, Flashpoint 3 and 4. Yes, that's what we said. The fall major, which is the PGL major, obviously now we know, and the race to the world final leaderboard, which is the ranking system that I guess is going to become somewhat similar to what we saw so far.
Okay,
yeah.
and I suppose...
But it's still simplified. That's only one team coming from the ranking instead of like all 8.
Yeah, that's
I think it was like 6. Well, whatever. Never mind.
Yeah, 6.
You know what's really smart about that from Blast as well? Instead of
competing
ignoring,
against everybody,
they're using what everybody else is doing, and they've gone, these are events that we think are of a high enough caliber to consider on our own, and we're going to try and integrate them in our circuit. So they're using what everybody else is doing for their own benefit. It's really smart. It's actually it's very inclusive.
It's almost like a champions thing that that they have going on, right?
And they can frame it that way as well, which is really good from like a marketing and advertising perspective. So with those changes, I think that they've smashed it out of the park there. But so the global finals now, we know that summer is soon as well after the global finals, and then we know that the spring series is after that. Then spring series, which is the 3 groups, right, ends on the 14th, so Monday the 15th, and then starting on the 16th of February starts the Katowice stuff, I believe. That runs and concludes on the 28th. Then I don't have anything in the gap after the 28th. This is tier 1 CS, guys, right? So like I'm trying to just keep it to like the top of the tops. I don't want to get into the gray zones, right? So even summer, I'm getting a little bit into the gray zone, but you get what I'm saying.
I mean, Summit. Oh, never mind. I almost said something I shouldn't have.
I don't know if they've announced their teams yet, have they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but I know what they are though.
Then we've got Pro League season 13, which runs. The thing is, I think that the dates have changed, so I can't say that one either. Pro League happens, then Showdown stuff, then there's more Masters level events, then there's more Blast. Like at this point, I think I'm counting like.
Then there was Cologne somewhere there, right?
Yeah. Then I think is Cologne before the player break. So if you would just I'll count this out for you. If you were to play in all of these tournaments I've just said, not including Summit, and we'll include Flashpoint because that has to be in there somewhere too. I don't think they've announced their dates yet.
Nope.
Blast Global Finals, the Spring Series, Katowice, the Pro League season, the Showdown, a Masters tier event, another Masters tier event, the Spring Finals. Alone, if you were to either get far enough or not get far enough, in the case of like the Showdown and stuff, you will have played in 9 events. Now, a lot of these teams are not going to have played in 9 events before the player break. Like some teams will qualify straight through the finals. Some teams won't have to play in the play-ins for events. Some teams, will play in the first week of Pro League and then not have to play for 3 weeks. My point here is that if you just played in like, and Flashpoint, that's 10. If you just played in those events that we listed there, that's 10 events. That's 10 different tournaments that you might play in between
7 months or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
more like six and something.
So I think, like, how does that sound to you guys? Like, if you're,
the problem is that like there's Pro League, which is obviously like a month long. Flashpoint's also going to be very long, so it's like kind of that kind of counts more, almost like 3 events, or something like that. So that creates like a lot of time.
Yeah,
but to spend playing a tournament. But then again, at least I don't think that it's going to be as massive of amount of maps as we had before. I feel like organizers have realized that, like, not to have teams play 40 maps to become the winner of the tournament. That was happening with like Pro Leagues and not Flashpoint, but some other tournament. Road to Hero, I think, had a really large amount of maps. Yeah. By the way, RMR events, are those counted in your estimation?
No, okay. Because I don't even know what they're going to look like, sure. Right?
Just curious.
We might have to factor that in depending on how they structure it. But just taking a look at this, right? For example, I don't have the exact Blast dates in terms of like, is there a day off like between each of the groups? But for example, Blast Spring Series runs from. Have they announced the dates for that? I think they have.
Yeah.
Okay, from
February 4th to 14th.
Yeah, but if you they're going to have it group based.
Blast
again,
is the only one. It's the only one who's announced everything for their year, I think.
Okay.
ESEA announced a lot, but I don't think everything.
Okay.
And then Blast just have everything already.
The thing that I want to make clear for everybody and the players is from the 4th until the 14th is a long period of time. But if you're playing in this, it's a group stage. You will not play from the 4th until the 14th. You might play from the 4th into the 7th, and then the next group plays from the 8th into the 11th, and the next group plays from the fucking 12th into the 14th. Or maybe there's maybe it's 4th, 5th, maybe it's 5th, 6th, 7th, day off, 9th, 10th, 11th, day off, whatever. Maybe it's something like that. But my point is, if you're Complexity and you play in the first group, you're not there for 10 days. It's the same with Pro League. If you play in the first group of Pro League, okay, you play in the first week, then you have 2 weeks off. If you play in the second group, you have 1 week before off, and then you have 1 week after off. And then, like, this is my point is...
You're saying we can play all of the Home Sweet Home Cups?
Yeah, play everything else. Fill it all. Fill up your calendars here.
I'm curious if Complexity are going to do that, because they played, like, a shitload.
To be honest, like, those cups, when you're on that level, are fucking amazing. It's like, I don't know what the prize pool is for this season, how it's going to be distributed, but I think it's for the playoff, it's about 50K, and then the winner gets like 30K, and you get invited directly to the playoffs. You need to play 3 best of 3s to get the first place. And it's just, you play like 2 days. If you don't have anything to do with that week, you just want to spice in a few officials, that's great.
Yeah, but then don't complain about off time.
Yeah, I mean, Complexity haven't done that, so let's be real.
If you,
they've been one of the few teams that I feel like I haven't heard anybody, complain.
For the record, that wasn't directed at Complexity. That's just directed at the teams in general. But yeah, my point here with a lot of these events, like if you qualify in your group in Blast Spring Season, you come first, you're already through to the finals, which isn't until the 15th of June, right? You don't have to play in the showdown, which starts on the 13th of April, right? So also with these ESL events, the way that they're structured, if you play in the group stage and you don't progress, so if you look at an ESL tournament, let's use Katowice as an example, it's meant to start on the 16th. And it finishes on the 28th. But that sounds like a super long event, but it's not. It's broken down in different parts. The first 2 days are play-ins. If you can't progress from the play-ins, you don't play anymore. If you progress from the play-ins, you play the next 4 days, which are the group stages. If you don't progress from the group stages, you're out of the tournament. If you do progress from the group stages, you have a 4-day break, right? A 4-day break where you can practice, whatever, and then you have the finals. So my point here is, it's literally not just like it was with the online era we just had, with game after game after game after game. All of these TOs have left space. Flashpoint was the same when you watched them. They had their group, then there was another group, then there was another group, right? It wasn't you have to be on every single day. Like, this is the point that I'm trying to make here, guys, is these players will just look at these blocks and they'll go, oh my God, there's so many events. But when you break it down of how many, if Complexity, I'll just keep using Complexity, play Group A of Blast and they don't qualify, they don't have to play anything until Katowice. That's a week and a half off of downtime. If they don't make it to the finals of Katowice, they have 2.5 weeks until Pro League. If they don't make it past their group stage in Pro League, they have 3 weeks off until the spring showdown. My point here is the way it looks and the way it is are 2 completely different things. So once I can build this calendar and show you guys, once we have all the information, we'll go over it again, because we need to make sure that the information is being clearly pushed out there, because all of these TOs have learnt their lesson. And I'm sure that there were lots of people who were very vocal about things. I know I was. And we don't want to oversaturate you guys at home and overload the players. It's just fucking ridiculous. So my point with the whole calendar thing, which I haven't been able to deliver on, I'm very, very sorry, is that the year, if you are smart about things, and I've said this every fucking year now, it can be worked out. It can be worked out. It's just if people are going to use their heads about it or not. And I feel I've gone on a few tangents here. Do you boys have anything you want to say about like the calendar that you've seen and your thoughts on things like that?
Not really. Just curious about how the RMR events are going to spice things up, because that was an issue last year a little bit, because they were kind of like thrown in the middle of everything. And obviously, like Road to Rio was very long before, it got a little bit shortened for the Summit and DreamHack Open Fall and IM New York, obviously. So I'm just curious to see how that will pan out. I imagine it's not going to be as taxing as like Road to Rio was, because that lasted for like a month. And obviously that wasn't ideal when it was like in the middle of a whole bunch of other events, and people didn't even know ahead of time that was going to be a thing until like a few months earlier. So hopefully it's a little bit more well thought out this time. And I would imagine it is, just because of how much of an issue it was last year.
Sure. I just want to reply to a couple of comments in the chat just to give a bit of context here. I had not context, a bit of clarity. One person asked, are you including travel and hotels, or are we talking about this play from home? So for the foreseeable future, as far as I'm aware, nobody, it's very difficult right now. I don't know where all of these events are at in terms of if they're going to be online or offline. I'm operating under my own assumptions that all of these will be the same as they were last year, because if you're in Europe, you'd be aware of the COVID situation, and a lot of places are actually in harsher lockdowns than they were, or as harsh lockdowns as they were earlier. So I'm not including travel and hotel days and all that kind of stuff, because I personally don't see it happening soon. So that's not included. And also somebody was saying, but they still have to watch demos and prepare. Yeah, they do. But I'm talking about weeks worth of time or in between events, right? I'm talking about much larger stretches. And once I can visualize it for you guys, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. And I can even use like reference points, and we can have like dummy teams in these events just to show you guys like the worst and best case scenarios. But it to me, if teams are selective, looks, and like I said, I've said this year after year, it looks like if teams are selective and smart, that it doesn't have to be just getting rammed and playing every single day of your life. It doesn't have to be that. And that was a big problem of last year. And I think it's something that we need to make sure people are aware of, because the onus eventually stops with somebody. And the people at the top of the pyramid, in my mind, the people that pay these players and make the deals with the TOs, because they're the ones who you need to, as players, get through to on how many events that you want to and don't want to play. And that's where the buck inevitably stops. And that's why unions and associations can be powerful to help you with your orgs if you use the power correctly. At this point, I'm just fucking ranting.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, at least, from what I've seen and heard, I mean, even from what's official, honestly, in the first, let's say, 2-3 months, it's pretty clear that it's not going to be the case of, you finish an event, you win an event, and you have to play the next day immediately. It's usually not going to be that way, at least I would imagine.
I'm
sure,
hoping.
maybe I can imagine like some RMR events, being thrown in there a little sometimes, but at least from what we see so far, and I think most of it has already been announced, then we shouldn't be in that situation anymore. At least not often as much as we were literally at the start of, like, for the entire first half of the year. I feel like, where since we went online, we literally had match days every single day, and that's not going to be the case this time.
Yeah, and I hope we don't get Vitality versus NIP 364 times in a year. Okay, we'll talk about this. When do we think LAN will return? Prof, you got any inklings? You've been keeping your finger on the COVID pulse?
It's who knows. I'm hoping we could get something like early summer, late summer, mid of the year. That is like the hopeful version in my mind. Just thinking about how it was last year, when kind of in Europe it was kind of okay, and plus the vaccine, so maybe we get something doable, but not with crowd. Just
sure,
just probably LANs. Not crowd.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I know when I was in Cologne, everything seemed to be a lot more open during the summertime, and the rate of infection wasn't crazy. So it wasn't great. And I'm not going to talk about any of this shit like I'm an expert, guys. But I think I'm hoping you bang on there, Prof, because I think the online fatigue is being felt from everybody. It's being felt from the players, the people broadcasting, and especially the people watching. So that's not a bad assessment of things, and I think that's all we can do, right? Is just speculate. All right. Do we want to jump into playtime? I'm not sure if we have any questions, but we can. Do we need to go into playtime for an ad, Lucas? Okay. Well, it's 10:10. What do you boys want to do? Do you want to wrap it up? Do we want to just jump into some quick stuff? Do we want to peace out? What are you guys feeling?
There was a question.
Okay. Don't worry about the bumper, Lucas. We'll just get into this. Let's do the question.
The question is, when are you going to apologize to roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
We already made up. I was genuinely mad. Not about that situation. No, not necessarily about that situation. Just about a couple of other things going on in my life at the moment, and I overreacted at Rushly, and we've spoken about it since, and we've made up. So everything's good. We played some Danger Zone today.
I can remove your title for next time then.
There you go. What was the title?
Still hasn't apologized to Rushly.
Oh, okay.
No, I thought it was super funny. It also just reminded me of like all of these like in-game situations with people you play with a long time, and then everything just like explodes up for like the smallest thing.
Yeah,
you just like go completely mental. Yeah, and it's pretty funny.
Well, the thing is, on our stream, for people who watch occasionally, like we will do that just to rile people up. And a lot of people come in and ask like Counter-Strike questions that I talk about with you guys here. We try not to do that when I'm having fun with Danger Zone. So we've started doing this thing where people come in and ask a question, and we'll be like, yeah, man, I don't know about that fucking roster move, bro. Like, I don't know how it's going to work. And we keep going down that, and we go so intense. And I was, yeah. And then we like reference Haikyuu or some shitty anime that we watch or some shit, It just like, but yeah, I think, I have a bad temper sometimes. I'm a bit of a dick. I'll be the first to admit that.
I thought it was just funny the way that even like listening back to that video when that Rush made just to like prove you wrong, essentially. I thought it was funny that he just like half half was laughing while arguing with you.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty clear that he knew
Yeah.
that he was in the right.
I mean, that pisses you off even more.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I feel this has been a pretty successful episode. We've had a lot of stuff to talk. Oh, there's one I want to talk about here. Because if we don't get to talk about this one, then
We never will.
before Blast, we never will. It's about the JUGi complexity situation.
Right.
So just quickly on this one, I think that if I'm complexity right now, things have to seem pretty bleak. Like if you lay out the progression, they started 2020 on a high, they continued to grind. They had more of a high when they beat Vitality in the grand final of Blast. Then out of nowhere, the success gets sucked away because one of their star players, obviously, we all understand why, and I won't criticize Obo for going home, but that derailed the team at that point. They got a player as a replacement who I think you could argue was an upgrade in terms of experience, and we've spoken about it to depth on the show with JKS, but then there's obviously been the issues. So they had NATO stand in. That would have already created a little bit of in the team, right? Then Poison's out. Then they have to have Otto stand in. Things go even worse. Then now they're having to have JUGi come in, and things are probably not going to get much better. No disrespect to JUGi, I just don't know if he's been playing enough with the rumors of him going to Valorant and that kind of shit. Now, if I'm going to put myself, I've been working on empathy, and I've been working on trying to put myself in other people's shoes. If I'm Blame and I have such a hard work ethic, and I spend so much time completely glued and focused on this, and that I feel is probably Blame's mindset and mantra, is just to be the best he possibly can be and push this team as far as he can. A lot of things that are probably going to start cropping up if I was in his shoes of, we were good then, why aren't we good now? And I think that could be like a dangerous mindset, for a team to fall into. Because if you, like, I know I had this when I was playing with Renegades. It's like, well, we were good. We had like a couple of good events, and I was like, why aren't we good like that? So then we tried to replicate that play style, which was like hyper aggression and stuff. And then things got worse because teams would know what to expect. And then I was like, well, okay, well, now we need new solutions. So like, I think that unfortunately the success that Complexity had with Obo, we all kind of need to forget about it. Like, because I think that the team, with all the problems they've had over these last 6 months, don't have to start again, but they have to go up those steps again. And I think, unfortunately for them, still having a stand-in with Poison out, they should not be considering immediate success. They should be considering success in 3 to 4 months' time. So I just think that these teams who are finding themselves in these situations with having to have consistent stand-ins need to, I don't know. I think it's just gonna be really hard for Complexity. I'm sitting here thinking about that team and stuff and just going, oh no, like I would hate to be in that position. It'd be such a miserable spot.
It sucks so much for JKS literally coming in from North America to this team mid-season, jumping into it like, okay, now we need to learn everything. They have like one decent event, one like kind of mech event, and then all of this shit starts. And literally, it's been almost 2 months now that they didn't really play anything.
Yeah.
Like with the full lineup.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of been a waste of time. And of course, he's in the UK right now. He didn't get to go home because Australia and everything and COVID. He didn't really get like a real break, right? Didn't get the classic Christmas at home or anything. So, and just for nothing, right? Because before the break, they played with, as you said, Otto, and now they're playing with JUGi, which I think is a much worse player than Otto. And fuck it, it's just kind of a waste of time. So that sucks.
I mean, the one thing that's kind of at least going for them is now that they have a little bit of time at least to play with JUGi, because before it seemed like a very last minute options, with NATO, and then or first with Kita, even with that was literally like hours before Pro League playoffs, and then with NATO and later with Otto. So hopefully this time they at least had a little bit of time to figure out how to play it with a stand-in. So maybe it's not going to be as bad, but still, yeah, it's a rough situation to be in for sure.
Yeah, I look at it as well, and if I was Complexity going into this event, I wouldn't want an AWPer who's going to play a role. I would want an AWPer who's just going to, let him off the leash. Just an AWPer who's going to go mental. Just go kill. I drop you AWP, go kill. Right? Like, the problem is, I think if JUGi's still trying to salvage his career being a Dane and he wants to end up on a Danish team, they're all about the system. Like they're all about structured CS and having a, and if he goes in with that mindset into this environment, I don't know how long the tenure is on this. I think it's going to be hurting them because they already have Blame and JKS to be the baity, clutchy players. They already have Rush to be the completely supportive element and to run in first and give information. They have Config, who's an absolute monster. They need JUGi to have some form of aggression, or they're really going to struggle. Like, I know that they're quite structured in terms of how they move around the map, but having an X Factor AWPer when you're going in with a stand-in is kind of what you're hoping for, at least from my perspective. So yeah, I don't have any faith for Complexity, and I hope I get proved wrong. I don't mean long-term. I just mean in this event. It's just so hard. It's the same with the FURIA and the Liquid thing. We can talk about it in the future if we get a chance, but I just wanted to touch on that one because I think that I just think that the position that Complexity are in, I want people to kind of look at how shit it must feel to be in that team right now, considering where they were almost this time last year, right? All right. I think we done, boys?
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was
like
one question. We can't talk about it, but there was a question about like academy teams, and I think that's a topic that could maybe in the future be interesting to talk about because Australis now has one. NIP
Big.
are building theirs. Big also like has one for quite some time now.
Navi, essentially.
What?
Yep.
Navi
too.
Yeah. So there's something to be touched upon there in the future, but obviously not right now.
Okay, well, this has been episode 22 of season 5, HLTV Confirmed, brought to you by Extrafy. Now, next show, we'll have a discussion about it after this, and we'll try and work out, and we'll let you guys know ASAP, try and work out some guests and whatnot. Once again, if you want the audio-only options, head over to anchor.fm/HLTV, get it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, there's a bunch more. Twitch TV, where you are right now, HLTV.org, that's the URL. And then on YouTube, youtube.com/www.hltv.org and at HLTV Confirmed on Twitter. Nothing burnt down. Everything went well. And we did a little giveaway on our last show. We put out a bit of a challenge to you guys at home, and it was hidden bullshit. That's his hidden _bullshit on Twitter. He won. Lucas, were we able to roll that and finish the show? All right. And this is what he made. And he won some lovely prizes from Extrafy. This is what he made. Peace out. See you guys next time.